Okay, good live.
All right, very good. Hello, Jason Larry, and I am pleased to present and work with our council with our 2021 budget. This is a exciting budget, even more so than it has been in the past because our revenues are going up exponentially and our services are coming along in the same way. Also, we're going to talk about our 5-year capital plan and the type of staff that we need for the future, position-wise, not person-wise, but position-wise, and how we're growing. And these are exciting times for us. We went from a $6.2 million a year budget to a $9.3 million a year budget, and then a 10 and change $million a year budget, and now 13 and a half or so $1 million a year budget, onwards to a $30 million a year budget. So we're stopping at 13 and a half, for 2021. And from here, I had such an honor and great pleasure of working with our staff and team members to be able to put this budget together to present to you all and have conversations today. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to the folks that did the heavy lifting, and that is Mr. Joyner, Mr. Scruggs, Mr. Sims. It is your show.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Mr. Mayor, and welcome to the council for joining us for our budget workshop for fiscal year 2021. Before we go any further, I really have to acknowledge once again the hard work that Travis Sims and Gia Scruggs put in. The mayor's right; they did a yeoman's job of a lot of heavy lifting, and I shudder to think what a disaster this would have been if we didn't have them on board to help us out with their expertise. So thanks a lot, thanks a lot, Travis and Gia, for your hard work. What we'd like to do this evening is we've sent out the questions and answers from the public that came in last night, and just want to spend a little time querying with the council to see if you guys have any additional questions and comments that you want to have to highlight in the budget itself. But most importantly, I would like to, as soon as possible, if we could pivot and have a discussion about the 5-year capital improvement plan for the city. As you know, we're finishing up year 3, going to year 4, and it is high time that we put some definitive plans in place around those areas. As you know, we've completed our comprehensive plan, our transportation master plan, our parks and rec master plan. And so now I think we have all our key components in place. So now we can start planning long-term for the city's future. So with that, I would like to open it up to the council for any questions and comments that you have related to some of the comments that we received from the public and those that were not addressed by the public as well.
Mr. Joyner, this is Jasmine. When you said that you all sent out those comments and answers from the public, when did we get that?
They were sent out a little bit earlier this afternoon. There was a council.
Oh, it was today. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss it.
Oh, yeah.
That was the one that came out at 3 something this afternoon.
Right. Yeah, we after we started to synthesize those answers, we had about 35 questions, and so it took quite a bit of time for us to pull that all together and pull together those responses. Be honest with you, we were anticipating having this meeting actually tomorrow, so that folks would have a little bit more time. But we wanted to make sure that everyone, I believe we had someone who wouldn't be able to make it tomorrow, so that's why we're doing it today. Okay. Right,
no problem. I just wanted to at least state for myself that I have not had a chance to look at what you sent a couple hours ago. So if you don't mind, maybe somebody else has, and I'll yield for sure. But I do have, plenty of questions for the team regarding the budget, but I have not had the opportunity this afternoon to look at what you presented this afternoon on the comments from the public.
Okay. Yep, that's fair.
And just to add, those questions and answers will be posted on the website.
Yes,
They're already on the website. They're on the packet under council meetings for today. So the public can view them as well. If council desires, we can put that on a separate page along with the budget.
In regards to answering these questions, I'm presuming Mr. Joyner, you and Travis and the financial team was the ones that answered the questions?
correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the body of work that was done. However, I wasn't privy to them, and just hearing that they have been released right now. So I do apologize to you all if your work seems to have gone unnoticed, but I didn't get that until right now. So.
Oh yeah, it's believe it's completely understandable, and you know they actually burned a little bit of midnight oil to get.
Yeah, I was about to ask. Are these are the questions from just Monday night, right?
Yes, correct.
Right. Okay.
So what we did is all of the questions that came in from public comments on Monday night, we pulled those all apart and went through one by one through each one, and did the research and background on each answer.
And excuse me, and in regards to these questions, can we in the future also make comments on them after we had a chance to look at them in reference to the concerns?
Oh yeah, of course. So as we know, we have our meeting this evening, and so really the purpose of this meeting was for the council. Because Monday night was really the public gave their input and those kind of things. Tonight we really want the input from the council, and as Megan stated, it's all posted on the website, and then we'll have our meeting on Monday evening at 6:30 on Monday, and then we can, if there's any other ambiguity or something that needs further clarification, we can clear those up at that time as well.
So in reference to the meeting on Monday, it's not just a meeting just for voting, it's also a meeting of discussion and other information?
If at all possible, if you have any questions after subsequent to this meeting, if you have something that comes up and it's a burning question, let's see if we can get those questions into our office, get them into Travis and Gia. Let's try to get some answers out so that on Monday we won't need to, we spend a lot of time on putting the budget together. So, we really want to, but we don't want to spend, 3 or 4 days of just hashing things through. So if you have questions and things come up, just shoot us an email and we'll try to.
Thank you.
We'll try to get those answers back out to you as quickly.
Let me just say that I just received a question and answered as well. And I saw quite a few. Are these only the questions that were asked at last Monday's meeting? Or are these questions asked in reference to last Monday's meeting?
What we did is we deconstructed all of the comments that came in to the city clerk and pulled them apart, and then we answered each one individually. So yeah, so these are just the public comments that were received on Monday.
So nothing new. So we've already heard these questions.
Yeah, so you've heard all the questions. You just haven't seen all the answers to those questions.
All right, that's important. And I'm sure we're going to cover some of that same stuff tonight. So we'll hear it again. Oh
yeah. The public did an awesome job of delving into the budget and asked some very deep questions, and more than likely, I'm hoping that actually any question that you guys have may already be answered in that as well. So that's my hope and prayer here. Please.
Put your seatbelt on, please. Let me ask Travis and Gia a question. Do we have the or do you rather have either the general ledger or somewhere you can dive into some of the expenses that were in the budget last year to help us identify what some of the things that were requested in this upcoming budget that we can identify. Do you have a resource where if we had those questions, you could get to those answers in front of you?
I personally don't have that resource tonight. I actually had a family commitment, but if you send those to me, I could answer them later on this evening, hopefully.
Okay. All right. I can start, or I can let someone else start, but historically, I usually get the ball rolling, and you know how the story ends.
Yeah, Councilwoman Cobble, why don't we go ahead and once again, let's keep in mind that there, just like your previous question, we may need to do some additional research into those type of things. So we'll answer them as best we can. If we don't have an answer right now, we'll research it and we'll get those to you. Okay.
Okay. Please also, so some of these aren't questions, some of these are recommended changes.
Mhm.
So is somebody taking notes?
Oh yes, yeah,
okay. Awesome. Okay. So if no one else minds, I'll jump in and get the ball rolling. I'm going to start in the expenditure portion of the budget with my questions and some recommendations. I don't know, it's a little ways down in the document. Looks like it starts at row 139.
Okay. What is the area? And
I'm sorry, I'm in the Excel spreadsheet too, so I'm not in the PDF. That might make a difference.
okay.
So I'm starting where the expenditures start.
Right.
May I interrupt?
Yeah.
Are you going to be going in any particular order, or are we going to be jumping around?
Well, for the questions and recommendations, I'm going to start in expenditures and go in order the way it goes on the budget worksheet.
Okay.
Well,
so are you starting at item number 05110? City?
Yep.
Okay.
I think the budget book is, I could be wrong, but I think the budget book is organized in the same order for the most part as what the worksheet is in.
Okay. Now I just wanted to be able to follow from the
This is
beginning
section
to
3.
the end. So to
Section
start
3 in the budget book.
Tab 2,
okay.
right? Is it tab 2?
It's tab 3 in the budget book.
In the budget book.
Yep. So the budget book is all expense. The budget book is all expenditures. No revenue in the budget book. So it's tab 3 in the budget book. And then at least on the Excel version, it's line like 139. But the account number is 05110.
And in the budget book, the 0 is off.
Yeah,
Wow.
sure is. Yeah.
Okay. One more time. What row are you? I'm gonna open up the spreadsheet myself here. And then you're on row 109?
139.
39.
That should be where the expenditures start.
Yep.
And for the most part, the budget book is in this order.
Okay. And Gia and Travis, are you able to follow? I know Travis, you may be out with your family. Gia, are you also able to follow along here as well?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I just want to have a couple of us taking notes, so then we can compare notes afterwards.
I'm taking notes too.
Okay. Great.
All right, cool beans. So starting with the expenditures, and this is the city council department, named city council department. I'm making a recommendation for the regular salaries line that it remains what we had budgeted for 2019 and 2020. It remains 95,000. The budget book outlines The council salary to remain at 15,000, which times 5 would be 75. And then the budget book outlines the mayor's increase to 75. So I'm just recommending that we keep what's in the charter at the 20. So that would keep us at 75 plus the 20,000 would keep us at the 95. The FICA and the Medicare line that comes next, 51,200. In the budget book, the recommended or the FY21 request has 11,475, but as you can see on the worksheet, it does not have that number. It has 8,000. I'm just taking a good guess that in the budget book, the 11,475 was because the salaries on the line before it increased. So then FICA and Medicare would also increase, but somehow that didn't get translated to the worksheet. So I don't know if, does anybody in stat Plez, you, Megan, or Travis or G, well, Travis doesn't have it, but do you have the workbook in front of you?
Yeah, actually, I don't have the budget book in front of me. I was going.
I don't either.
Yeah, I was going from.
Councilwoman Cobble, that is, your assessment is correct. And the FICA and Medicare is based off a percentage of the salary. So whatever the percentage, whatever the salary goes to, then we'll make the appropriate adjustment for FICA and Medicare as well.
Okay, that's what I thought, because I just figured it just didn't get translated over. The salary line increased, but the FICA line didn't on the worksheet.
On the worksheet. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So naturally, if I'm recommending to keep the salaries the same, I'm obviously recommending to keep the FICA and Medicare the same too. This is more of a question than a recommendation for group insurance and retirement. I guess this could apply to workman's compensation as well. Seeing that these are in the city council portion of the budget, we've budgeted for it each year. I guess what we're seeing now is the 20 and the 2019, but we haven't used it. So just out of curiosity, to keep from continuing to budget for it and not use it, is there kind of a recommendation for what we need to do to start using that, or do we need to take it out because we're not going to use it? I just hate to see us for a third, maybe even fourth year, continue to budget for that and we not use it.
I'll be honest, we were just, it was budgeted for the previous couple of years. It's a pretty minor amount. And so I'm not sure if there's ever going to be a when that will be used. So that was mainly, it's just a holdover from previous years, to your point.
Okay. In the budget book, and I know you all don't have it in front of you, but in the budget book for workman's comp, it says that we budgeted for 2020 12,000 and that we're requesting 12,000 for 2021. I think that hopefully that's just a fat finger, unless we do anticipate having some dramatic increases in workman's compensation. Not that we have used it, so we don't have a way to make workman's comp claims, but I think that maybe you meant 2,000, which is in the worksheet, but the budget book says 12. So I just wanted to make sure I was clear on the request.
It's been just an administrative oversight. The budget book, as you mentioned before, is supposed to duplicate or replicate what you see on the actual worksheet. So if it is, it was just an administrative error, but it is correct in the system at the 2,000.
So if I may interrupt, for clarity, you have a spreadsheet and we have a budget book. Which one is going to be the one that we consider the one for approval?
For approval, you would be approving the worksheet that was originally sent out that has the previous year, current year, and FY21 recommended or proposed budget.
So that's where we should look for the adjustment, because I'm looking at the spreadsheet, not the spreadsheet, I'm sorry, in the budget book. You have a nice little form in here which says FY21 requested, the FY20 budget, and city manager recommended, and mayor and council approved. And I just wanted to know at what point do we deal with that, or this is just for working purposes? And we're going to just look at the spreadsheet, and what's on the spreadsheet is what we're going to look to cast as the item to vote on.
Yes.
Let me just provide a little clarification. The budget worksheet is the official guide used. The budget book that we have put together was just to provide council additional information that the general public may or may not would not have to let you know exactly what those line items are. But in terms of what you would voting on would be on what was actually posted on the website and any changes that would be made there.
Yes. So once again, that budget worksheet, excuse me, the budget book was actually just specifically created just for the council, the mayor and council. So it was really for your eyes only. It's not that it's confidential or anything, but it was to Ms. Scruggs' point, really to give you some background and clarity on each of those line items. But I guess the document of record of what you'll be acting on is what was posted on the website that the public has access to.
That's what I wanted to know, since there were inconsistencies, as long as we get it straight with the spreadsheet.
So the book was actually created, and so quite possibly it was just somebody fat fingered it.
Okay.
Yes, that book has to be done completely manually, and it's a lot of work and a lot of time. So it's completely possible that we keyed in some of the numbers wrong.
So totally disregard the workbook if there's some conflicting numbers with the spreadsheet, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
If there's any inconsistencies, just refer back to the worksheet. That's the account. That's the numbers that are being published.
Okay.
Okay. And Travis, to your point, I'm sure that it takes quite a bit of time to literally, logistically, just put all these papers in a binder, let alone fill it out first and print it out and put holes in it. So maybe in the future we can talk about an efficiency for that process that would help staff, and also something that's maybe a little bit more useful to the council. So we don't duplicate services, but also don't spend your time trying to put something together that there may be a way that we can do it where it's a little better for everybody.
Right. One of the things that's in the budget is software. That certainly would help.
Yep. I agree with you there. Okay, so I'm jumping now to line 52, 105, the uniform line. Nothing significant, just recommending that we increase that line to 1,500 instead of 1,000. Just gives us all 250 toward what we Greeks call Nelia, Stonecrest gear.
So under uniforms, that's 15. Yep. Okay.
What department is that in?
We're still in the city council department.
So, okay.
And Travis, I'm not sure, and I don't expect you to have an answer for this right this second, but I'm not sure if when uniforms are ordered, I know council uniforms are not always ordered at the same time as staff, but I'm not sure if when they are ordered, that it's broken out and charged to the city council uniform line. Looking at the actual for 20 and the actual for 19, it doesn't appear that it is being charged there, because I know we've spent more than $178 getting shirts for all 5 of us, or 6 of us rather. So it's probably being charged somewhere else. But if in the future you're going to charge the city council uniforms, jackets, shirts, or whatever, just asking that, we each get like $250 for the year to.
I would say
I would like to inject a little bit right there, Councilwoman Cobble, if you don't mind. I would recommend that we not even have a line in the city council part of the budget for uniforms. That should be put elsewhere. That way staff can order as many, in bulk, and then we just get whatever staff gets. Because I don't think there's a special need for city council to have a particular uniform that's different from what staff have.
I was thinking along those lines, and when you brought it up, I was thinking that, that was something that just got missed, because we made the decision, I think under general operations, we increased the uniform budget quite a significant amount, to charge uniforms there. And so I didn't remember seeing uniforms under mayor and council, and that may have just gotten missed because, as you can see, I added a lot of account numbers under mayor and council.
Okay. I was just going to say that I think the reason why it was separate, for whatever reason, I know in 2019 we purchased polo shirts for mayor and council to go to Savannah for GMA conference, but that may be why it's still in there like that. That would be the only reason. And then we didn't purchase any this year because nobody really went. I mean, we purchased some stuff, but we didn't purchase specific polo shirts for council to go to the GMA.
So if we're getting different shirts or paraphernalia in reference to the city for specific events or something, that's not going to come out of this uniform account, am I correct? It'll come out, maybe if we was doing it for COVID, it'll come out for that. If we're doing it for something else, it'll come out of that account. Is it correct?
Well, I think Travis is saying that they increased the general operations line. Well, they created it actually, and then I think that's tab 14 in your budget book. Yeah. That he significantly increased the, say, branded city clothing to 20,000.
Right.
So that's
but really, Justin, I think in response to Councilman Clanton's assertion there, Megan is exactly right. When we do the GMA, we have been getting shirts specifically for the mayor and council to go to that. And those shirts, we're not ordering those for the entire staff when we're doing that. So, you know what? Let's go ahead and let's just leave it there. This is a pretty nominal amount, and actually to Councilwoman Cobble's account, maybe there might be another opportunity to have some NALIA when you guys go to city days or something like that as well.
Okay. I want to talk about the professional services line, the 52,120. So we have spent 23 thus far. We budgeted 20. So we went over a little bit, but now we're requesting to go from 20 to 200,000. So that does match in the budget book, by the way. But the description is what I wanted to talk a little bit about, what contracts are in this area. And I don't know if maybe there's a deeper discussion about putting these contracts in a more applicable area. But as I think of this being the city council area of the budget, I would think that the professional services that would be listed here would be for services that either the city council together has decided that we need and would like to contract for, or that the services are specifically related to city council needs. So as I read those, I don't recall us having discussions about needing those services, or that they're applicable to the city council specifically. So I wanted somebody to talk through a little bit kind of the rationale for these specific contracts. And then there's a little bit of chunk of money, about 50 grand, that's just named other, without kind of really, defining what that is. But if somebody will talk through that, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I'll jump in first, and then maybe the mayor may want to put a bow on it. But this is, and actually you bring up a good point. Should we set aside should we be creating another account for maybe like if it's just the mayor's stuff and maybe the city council, that might be a discussion as well. But it's all along the lines of those types of professional services and consultants that may be brought on to fill a specific role that may be deemed necessary throughout the year. So I think what we want to do, and what may not have always been occurring, is close adherence to the purchasing policy and those type of things that would really give us a little bit more of a granular look as to what was going on in those particular areas. So it sort of is what it is, what was requested, for those various areas to be handled within the budget itself. Is this really the place, to your point, is this the place where this money should reside? Should there be another place for it? Or, do we want to go into a big discussion as to, what services are necessary versus which ones, should not be done, that type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, my recommendation would be that you move these, I guess, to a more applicable area, considering that the contracts that are listed here are not any that, one, I wasn't aware of that we even had. This is the first time I've seen that. And then two, it's just hard for me to evaluate at this point without reading through those contracts specifically, how they're applicable to the city council section of the budget.
Right.
So my recommendation is to make that number, instead of 200,000, to 25. And then I guess you all can go back and look and see where you want to put the remainder of that. From what I could tell, they may be either one may be communications, one may be economic development. I think so yeah, there just may be a better place for those that you specifically outlined in the budget book.
Yeah. Now as far as okay. I think that's something that we need to we need to take a look at how we can do that to make it a little bit. I think more than anything, if I'm hearing you correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, but really what we want to make sure what we're doing is that everything is where it's supposed to be in the budget, and that we're able to quickly and easily explain and provide the transparency that's necessary for what this service is needed for, and why we'd even be asking for it here.
Yeah. And that's what I was hoping would be in the budget book under the description. Because again, when we read it, if I've never seen that these names for these companies, I didn't even know we had these contracts, right? Actually, I take that back. Maybe a week ago, there was a report of sorts put together for us, and I see some of the same names on that report of contracts that are here. But prior to that, I didn't even, no clue. So yeah, even if there was more description here.
So to be clear, and certainly, moving the money to appropriate departments is a simple thing to do. Right. But I don't know that those contracts necessarily exist today. This is, a plan for the future.
Well, two of them do, at least. Two. Well, three of them did. Two of them still do.
Okay.
At least according to the report you and Joel were working on for us.
May I ask what the others is? The other three have a name associated with them, but the others, if I could just get some clarity on what that is.
Well, really, what we did in the future, we probably shouldn't put names. We probably should have did a better job of describing the service, because that's really should be the focus, is the service that we actually need, and not necessarily who's providing the service.
Right, because that will be hashed out through the purchasing policy or the contracting procedures.
Correct.
And
Right.
that,
So
and that,
yeah,
and
a
that,
better description of what instead of professional services, which could be 80,000 things, defining for us, and especially specific to each area of the budget that you have it in, what you thought that need is, and describe it better for us would be really helpful.
And
and
Travis,
that,
even if,
that was,
and Travis,
exactly my point. For us adhering to the purchasing policy, these types of things, these descriptions should be completely vendor this, but what is being provided and is being provided, those type of things. I'm sorry, Councilwoman
Repeat that,
Grimes.
Blaze. I didn't hear you. You froze for a moment. You repeat what you just said?
Oh,
You were frozen.
oh, the
Hopefully you didn't say a whole lot because you were frozen. We didn't hear it.
it was like the preamble to the Constitution, and there's no way I'm going to be able to get it back, right? But the thing is, what we need to do is strict adherence to the purchasing policy, more emphasis on what is being provided and how it's being provided, and being a little less, being more vendor agnostic. So,
Right.
who's delivering the service is really, that's what the purchasing policy does, it and brings us who's going to be, go out and get our bids, blah blah blah. Who's going to provide the service the best. So it's really even sort of, we really shouldn't be putting anybody's name in there. We should be putting what services do we need, and what and how that's going to help us move the city forward.
and I can appreciate that, but while we're here at this point, others is so ambiguous. If you could give me either a description or keep in line with the name, it doesn't matter to me. I just want to know more about the other, if you don't mind. Because the others has contributed it as well.
I don't know that the other had anything specific designated placeholder for whatever.
Yeah, so I think Travis was breaking up a little bit. So the others was mainly in anticipation, basically a placeholder for other opportunities that may come up throughout the year. So very hard to it's very hard to anticipate what you're going to be using, all of the fundings for. So at times you're going to put some placeholders in place and say, okay, throughout the year we may have to do X, Y, and Z. Here we are, is set up and ready to go. Then we go through our purchasing policy, present that, and then we just move forward with it. Okay.
So this is the future. This is a future piece.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, so Les, sorry, go ahead, Judge.
I just want to know if we got a feel whether or not we want to leave this on this line or it goes somewhere else. And I was not clear if it came from somewhere else to this particular line. This is a 900% increase. And I just didn't know whether it was new or transferred.
It wasn't transferred. I think you probably would want to leave that particular item there. The three other things that we named, I think we probably can find other places. There probably are better homes in the budget for those.
So Travis and Plez, I guess taking away the potential vendors that are listed here and going with just strictly the dollar amount increase, the $180,000 increase, because we can't tell right now what I hate to use the word purpose, but what the need is for that kind of increase. It's hard to say that this should stay here because I don't know what it's for. Like, I know it's for some future contracts for some services we may need, but It's not definitive enough for me to say this is the appropriate place for it to stay. So it would be difficult for me to say, yes, increase that line by $180,000 when I cannot articulate for what.
Okay.
No,
Look,
Councilwoman, I'm agreeing with you that some of that 180 needs to be moved out.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I was only speaking to the 50,000. You know, maybe leaving the 50,000 there and moving the rest out.
Gotcha.
yeah. How about if we do this? So that we, so I think we get the gist of what we want to do is we need to make sure that we're being very definitive and about what we're putting where, and why it's there and what we're going to do with it and those type of things. So let's let Travis and Gia, let's go through this exercise of figuring out, does it need to be moved somewhere else? Do we need to have a better explanation for it? Where it fits the best within the budget itself, and then that way, then we can come back and we'll respond back and say, okay, point well taken. That shouldn't be $180,000 here. Maybe we need to put 50 here, 50 there, something somewhere else, and then actually explain what we plan to do with it. And even if it's something that's unanticipated, just say what we're sort of what the thinking may be around. Okay, these are some of the things that may come up that we want to address in the future. Is that fair?
Yep, that'll work.
As long as I'm clear about. Go ahead, Jess.
No, I was just I just wanted to make sure that Ples got the note down that I did put a recommendation to make that a $25,000 line.
I have that. Yep.
Okay, and that's just based on what we spent this year and what we spent the year before. So if there is anything that you all want to present to the council as something that we should consider, so that to adjust that professional services line, obviously feel free to bring that to us, and that maybe help explain why we'd need to increase that.
Correct. Yep. And so that'll be our charge to take that on in the next day or so. Okay.
Yep. Councilwoman Grimes, I cut you off. I apologize.
No, you didn't cut me off. You just kind of went ahead and said kind of what I was going to say. The explanation part, is separate from whether or not it's needed. I just don't like to operate in the, in the dark, if you will. So thank you. I appreciate that, please.
Ples, I'm going to jump down a little bit to travel expense. And I see that Travis broke that total out that we had previously at 25,000 and just broke it out by district, which is good because it's easier to read and understand that way. I'd like to recommend that we bump that from 1,000 to 25 for everybody. May or may not need it, but if we look at what's budgeted now, which is 5,000 versus what we budgeted before, which is 25, that's an 80% decrease. So I kind of minimized that a little bit and took it from 80 to 50. If it ends up being, we didn't spend it, that's good. I thought 80 was a little dramatic.
If you recall earlier, I said this would have been a unmitigated disaster if I didn't have Travis and Gia to help out when we did this. So there was a very reason why it was reduced and then why it was broken out. So and I see Travis just put his stuff on mute. But Travis, you need to come on out and tell us why you reduced their amount by over 80%. I can't believe you did that, man.
So herein lies the conundrum, Councilwoman Cobble. The charter states that all in total, the reimbursable expenses for the council is $3,000 per council member, and for the mayor it's $5,000.
Right.
And that's in the charter. And I even asked Winston if I was interpreting that correctly. To see what kind of leeway we had there. And, his response to me was basically, the charter says $3,000 in total, not line item or what have you. And his advice was to stick with the charter. And so that's what I did.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit, because obviously I did notice that there was an expense line missing from this section. So My recommendation was to add it back in. I thought maybe that was an oversight. But let's talk about that a little bit because, we've obviously been advised in I don't know, 3 or 4 different directions when it comes to this particular section. So the way we interpret and have been prior to this year, I guess, is that the expense accounts are for there are reimbursable accounts for us to carry out our duties um, within our city and in our districts, but that did not preclude us from budgeting separately for travel, education, and training, as those things do not specifically align with carrying out our duties within our districts or within our city, but it's just professional development, if you will. So we have been advised in that fashion in prior years that that does not preclude you from adding education and training. And I'll give you an example. For instance, in this area, you have where did it go? Mayor allowances, which obviously is not a part of the city charter and is above the number that we have budgeted for this year was 7,000, which goes above the 5,000 that's in the charter. So in keeping in line with that thought process, we have in history interpreted that part of the charter to be that is the expense account line. You surely cannot increase that, but that doesn't prohibit you from being able to budget for professional development in a nutshell, which is training and travel.
Oh, okay, and we went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I do recall in previous conversations we've had. Once again, remember, it was the big thing: is it an expense? Is it an allowance? Is it reimbursable? Are we going to add are we going to put your taxes on there, income tax, all that kind of stuff. So so that was where we landed after intense back and forth, even with Winston himself. So let's do this. Let's once again, let's let G and Travis and I let's sit down for a moment and let's mull over this additional information from you.
That for the record, players, that was my recommendation in the past over the past 2 years, and I still stand by it. Professional development of our council members is not part of their constitutional responsibility covered under the charter for their allowances. Additional professional development and the costs therein are expenses of the city. The only reason why they're reimbursable is because the council members outlay those costs first, and then we reimburse them. But they are technically the expenses of the city, not the council person.
Okay, I guess we should have called you, Joel. So let's do that then. We'll and see about.
So I agree with most of what was said. It just, however, goes against the legal advice that I received. So yeah,
So Travis, let me ask you then, what is the thought process about the allowances on the 53,169? Because would that not be contradictory to eliminating?
So I'm sorry, what's budgeted under, how much is budgeted under the allowances?
So there's only one line and it's for mayor allowances.
Right.
And then the mayor expense line has zeros all the way across. But it's budgeted, you've budgeted 0 for this year. But we have budgeted 7 prior to that. So if you've taken I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit, and I apologize. If we have removed the allowances, we've removed the education and training, we removed the travel, and we're lumping that all into the 3,000 and the 5,000. Where is the 3,000 and where is the 5,000? I guess in total, because we have 1,000 for travel, 1,000 for education, so that's only 2,000. Where's the other 1,000
Did you
Where's
put
it?
that on committee support?
Committee support.
Right.
Oh, was it community support? Okay. And then where's
Right.
the 5,000 for?
I thought I did a similar thing with the mayor. I thought I split his 5,000 up.
So committee support is one, education and training is one,
And
and
then
what was travel?
the mayor's travel expenses at
It's
3,000.
3. Okay.
So with this additional information from Joel, let Travis and Gia and I, let's just sit down and we'll mull this over and see if we can get land back to where we were before. Okay.
Sounds good. Yep. Definitely let us know about that one. City, I want to jump to city events. So this is a new line that wasn't in the prior budget. And really what I'm asking, I guess, is the difference between city events and then council initiatives. So I see that we put 0 for council initiatives, although I'll add that in the budget book, it says the recommendation was 25,000. But in the worksheet, it's 0. But did we kind of just take the council initiatives and maybe lump it in with city events and kind of we're just calling that one thing? Or why did we decide to take council initiatives down to 0 and increase city events to 100?
Well, and let me say this. I think the book was done probably when we had our conversation with legal. And so I think I went through changing those council line items at the last minute. So that's why you may have there may be a discrepancy there between what you see in the book and the worksheet. I just wanted to say that.
So you were thinking council initiatives would have been a part of the expense accounts?
I think what we did originally was try to break it out based off of the previous recommendation from council wanting everything to be broken out, and those council initiatives really would have been what you do for district-wide or for your area.
Okay.
Once we got the legal advice and they said no, then we tried to take everything back to what it was prior to that. So that's why the worksheet and workbook don't match.
Okay. And so this is just a little history on, I guess, or early on, maybe a year or 2 ago, when we were discussing what council initiatives were. They were actually not district specific. It was, we had this discussion about the council collectively wanting to do some things together, or there may be some projects like the census, right, that comes up that we want to take on. So that's not district specific. That's not kind of what the idea behind that line was. It actually was the opposite of district specific. It was more if we ever one day came together and said we want to do, a collective city council town hall, or like I said, something like the census or something that just comes up, that year that we would do collectively. Not necessarily, it wasn't designed or was the thought in mind to be district specific.
So with that being said, does the council still want that? I know we're kind of looking at city events, but between those two, are you still comfortable with what you see there?
Well, I think as long as
what our intent was, and then now hearing what you're saying, can we still accomplish that with what we have here?
As long as, I guess, under city events, we can agree that, because again, there's no explanation as to what city events, what that was supposed to cover. I mean, other than like, we can imagine it's things that are for the city, but as long as, I guess, we can use that 100,000 to cover both city events and council initiatives. We're not always necessarily involved in the creation of the city events. more likely than not, we're usually invited to them versus being a part of the planning process. So we just don't want the whole 100,000 to be dedicated to events that are created without us being a part of the planning. So it takes away from the council being able to come together and kind of do something collectively. So if we can agree that that 100,000 is enough to cover both of those types of things, then I think that number is good. If it is supposed to be designed where no, that's just city events, things that we're going to throw, throughout the year that, may or may not include your planning and your participation in the planning, then we would need some money in the council initiative so that we can do some things together.
And so for those who have maybe planned the city events or players being a part of the administration, can you kind of look at that 100,000 and see if there's room to share, or do you believe, or would you suggest that council has their own line? I'm looking at the $100,000 and I can talk about a couple of events, but I don't know any cost.
So once again, for more transparency, and why don't we just set aside some money for your purposes to, and you guys can plan and produce your events, and then we'll just have a separate line item, and just you guys just go to town with that, and let's want to just pick a number, and let's plug this in here, and let's make it work.
Okay, that would be my.
I just wanted really just to make this, so that next year, we'll come back and says city events. Does that include the council? Why don't we just go ahead and just have a line item for you guys?
Well, let me ask you a question in reference to that, Glenn. So if we maintain the city events, will we still be a part of that as council, even though we might have a separate line item?
Oh yeah, of course.
Helping to plan it, helping to be a part of it, those things also?
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, a lot of those city events will be stuff that's planned. The staff is doing most of the planning and those type of things as well. So, but of course, I would expect the staff to be assisting with you guys with your events as well, correct? So, why don't we, once again, just for transparency's sake, and just so in subsequent years, as we have in these conversations, we'll say, okay, so this is where the council, for the events that you guys want to plan, let's put, $10,000-$20,000 in there, and for you guys to do your thing, and then we won't have to worry about, oh, how much of the city events can we use? Who wants to be quibbling over that, and 5 or 6 months from now, I'm trying to decide. Now, what was that number we said that right. and then going back and forth with that.
Right. Okay, so I'll recommend that we put 10,000 in that line, and let's just see if we get there, and then maybe the next year 19 we budgeted 6 and we spent 42, and then obviously COVID I actually don't know what that 1780 is, because we haven't done any council initiatives this year, but let's put 10, and then we can evaluate it better in 22. Mm-hmm. Yep. See if we can get a normal year between this year and 22.
Yeah. Okay. Guess what? This is probably going to be the new normal. So
yeah.
at least for a while till we get a new normal, right?
Yeah. So we may have more mini council initiative events than 2 large ones, maybe. Okay. So
and also on that same subject, maybe we can get some input from staff as to how much these types of events would cost us. So, if we're going to put a line item in there specific for us, I think we should certainly make certain that we cover the expenses that we're going to need as a group, because some of these events, you'll be surprised at how much they cost. So 10 might actually be a low number. So, if we're going to attend to it, we might want to go ahead and, as you put before, Councilwoman McCauble, it's probably better to put more in there and not use it than, not to have enough.
10,000 is not enough, Councilwoman.
Okay, I mean, we can increase it. Just looking at what we've spent, not this year, but the year before, at that 42 number. And so since we have not, as a council, had not a single council event, there's really no way to know what that looks like since we've never done it. So I didn't know if, if
Councilwoman Cobble, you didn't have Councilwoman Grimes before, did you?
Nope.
But
Nope.
let me also say that.
All right. So let's put 20 in there, and we'll make sure we're covered. We'll be able to track it next year. If it's too much, we'll take it down. If it's not enough, we'll find somewhere else to get it from. Okay.
Let me also say that perhaps this is not the only line where you're going to find city events. This is city events under city council. There are other items, a line item for other city events. Am I not correct on that?
Yes, Councilman, you are correct. There is another line item down further in Parks and Rec as well.
Okay, and I would suspect some other areas as well. Okay, so this would not be the only place you would find city events. Okay.
No, and we know that all of the council, the mayor, and everybody else will support and participate in all the city events, whether it's yours or other departments, and we certainly appreciate that as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, please. I've got one more in this section that is not there. One more I'm recommending that we add.
I was about to say we run out of line items here.
I added one for you. So I'm recommending that we add a line for constituent services for the council members. And I'm recommending that we add to that line, the dollar amount that we add to that line, and get ready to hold on to your chair. Is $440,000. So what that contemplates is 5 full-time constituent services staff members, 1 for each council, which includes 60% for fringe. And 60% is just what I used because it's a little bit less than what we use at the state. So that number can change surely, but that contemplates a base salary and adding 60% to each of those base salaries for fringe. So that takes us to a total of 440,000. So I'm sure that that's going to cause us to have some provocative discussions back and forth, but that's the recommendation.
Just so I'm clear, so 5 full-time employees, and this is with benefits as well.
Right.
Okay, so that'd be what I guess called fully loaded. Okay, I'm still here.
Good. You don't have any hair to lose, so I couldn't tell.
Okay, I didn't lose all my hair when you said that, but I'm still here. So once again, Travis G and I will sit down and let's figure out how to make.
Give us that dollar amount again. Suggested dollar
amount. That's my mantra. I like to get to a yes. Oh,
see, something happened. You were breaking up right in the middle of that.
It's $440,000, Councilman.
Right. And what happened was he got blown away.
Right. His internet couldn't take it.
Yeah. That's what's smoking in here. My router is
Yep. So Councilman George Turner, if you missed it, it was 440 as a total, but that's 5 full-time staff members with benefits, which I calculated to be about a 60% fringe. So it has a base and then a 60% fringe.
Got it. Recommend.
So, yeah. So I guess don't just divide 440 by 5 because that's not exactly accurate. Gee, it looks like you're trying not to smile, and that could be because you're terrified or it's like, oh boy, now the word comes.
I'm sure it's only gonna get worse, plans. I'm just feeling it. I'm just feeling it.
I'm used to Councilwoman Cobble cutting stuff. I used to her adding.
We're not done.
Hold on.
Well, that's all I had for the city council section.
I thought you were about to say that's all I have.
No. No, you know how these budget meetings go.
Okay.
That's all that Jasmine
Okay,
had for that section. Maybe somebody else had something for that section.
That was section 05110 for the council section.
Yep. Okay, so for the city manager section 05130, I'm going to start with the contractual services line and recommend that we decrease that line and then add an additional line, an additional general salary line, and to move the city manager salary and fringe from the contractual services line to a general salary line, which would make the city manager a employee of the city. So the recommended number to add to that that regular salary line would be 240,000, and that contemplates $150,000 base with a 60% fringe, which takes that to 240. So the recommendation is to reduce the contractual services line, add a general salary line for the city manager. In that line, 240. That 240 includes fringe with a base of 150.
Councilwoman Koppel, might I offer a
Yes.
suggestion?
Sure.
I know where you're trying to go, and I think the best thing would be to add the money regardless of the line item, and then administratively as staff, because unless you're going to say we're going to have a city manager January 1, you're still going to need some money in the contract line. And so just,
Right. Well, that's why I didn't say reduce it to 0. I just said reduce it. And I figured you all would come back with, okay, we need to reduce it by this amount.
Well, actually, I guess as long as the money is there, and I guess that's what I was getting at. I believe the charter, and I don't have the exact wording in front of me, but I believe administratively we can move money. Well, I know we can move money between lines within a department as long as we don't move that money out of another department.
Right.
So in other words, as long as, you can budget $100,000 in one line item and then go back later administratively and move that to 10 different lines.
Right.
So.
Okay. So you're saying don't reduce the contractual services line at all, just add one for regular salary for the 240 recommended. And then
right.
Figure out the contract, we'll make the adjustment.
Right. I'm saying let's put as much money as you think it will take in there, but I guess let's just not get hung up on specific line items.
Okay.
Yeah, can I add something there as well? I do think that's a good idea to add an amount, but that amount again probably need to be somewhat vetted just to make certain, that we don't price ourselves out the market if we're looking for a city manager, and it's even with the what's the salaries nationally? What's the average? And maybe you already considered that, but as opposed to just in the state of Georgia, if we're going to do a national search, we got to anticipate that. So certainly, I don't think it would be prudent to take money out of the budget at all, but to do exactly what Travis said and just add as much as you think or we think that would be suited enough. And again, if we don't use it all, that's fine. But we just certainly don't want to get to the point where we don't have monies to cover what we're after.
Yep, I don't disagree with you. Either one of you. I did, just so you know, Councilman Clinton, I did look at the salary of a city manager for a city of our size or like our size, both nationally and in the state. And that's kind of where the recommendation came from. But that's why I'm naming it a recommendation, prefacing everything with a recommendation. And most certainly I have no issue in just saying, hey, let's add this and let you all go back and adjust what needs to be adjusted on the other end. Actually makes it super easier for me too. The reason why I presented it that way is just so that I guess we understood that we wouldn't want to carry that dollar amount for contractual services and for a regular salary together for the entire year. So I just didn't want it to make it look like we were saying, add this here for the entire year, but also carry the existing amount in the previous line for contractual services as well, because then it would look like we're spending money on the same thing in two different areas. Did that make sense, Travis? Gia?
Yes, it does make sense. In considering these personnel type issues or concerns, I think you put the 60% fringe on there, and I guess just administratively working through bringing any city employee on, whether it's the city manager or the city clerk, is just a little bit more complicated, but certainly not something that we can't overcome. But the way the city is currently structured, it's a little bit not the typical structure. So we would have some additional challenges with that, additional for consideration.
I have all faith in you.
And then also recruitment, yeah, because I mean the recruitment cost. If we already know that we're, I think you guys mentioned in the last meeting about trying to get one in the next fiscal year. So recruitment cost, any relocation assistance. Typically, a city manager also has other retirement savings, and they also have housing allowances temporarily and car allowances. So those are other and benefit considerations that also need to be taken into account as well. And I just want to make that as a statement when you're saying the 240. That may be enough and it may not be.
Yep. No, good point. It was just a recommendation for the number. So absolutely, feel free to adjust what you think is appropriate for the additional cost outside of fringe.
Okay. So are we clear on the proposed changes there?
Yep.
I'm good.
The only other question I had in this section was under general supplies, and please don't think that I want us to take an hour talking about supplies. Just a quick observation that it looks like in this year we spent 62, we budgeted 1, so we had like a $5,000 overage, but we're only asking for 2,000. So I would first naturally assume that if we overspent what we budgeted, that we will want that amount or at least more, but we're asking for lower than that. So was there a big one, not a big, but a one-time cost that we don't anticipate for the next year in general supplies, is why we're not asking for what we at least spent this year, since it went over what we budgeted?
It was my understanding that some of the expenses were misaligned and were thrown into this particular line item when they should have been put somewhere else, basically.
Okay, so you feel like 2,000 is a good number?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. That's all I had for the city manager section.
Okay. So that was 05130 under city manager.
For next section, 52121. 52121. Yeah.
Which section is this?
I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong line. 05131, the city clerk.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okie dokie.
Okay. So similarly with the city manager, a similar concept with the city clerk. So I'm not going to recommend a reduction number. I'll let you all come up with that, but to add a line for regular salary to well, I have 104, but that was a $65,000 base, and I got that from not only looking at a national search, but also what's customary in the state. So GMA had a lot of good information on that, and then Community Affairs has a lot of good information on kind of those areas. But I used a $65,000 base, and GIA again a 60% fringe. So that's how I came up to the recommendation of 104. But similar concept in moving the city clerk off of the contractual services line and to a regular city salary line.
Okay. Yep.
So I have a question about the I'm going to talk about two lines together. 52135 software service contracts, and then 54240 computer software. And now that I know there were some changes made to the worksheet after the budget book was put together, this may make a little bit more sense to me now. But in the budget book, hold on, I'm sorry, let me flip there so I can read my note. So in 52135, we're asking to go from 5,000, what we had budgeted this year, to 46. And that's to cover open record software, MuniCode, and agenda software. And then in the line below it that I was mentioning, the 52440 line. Sorry, flipping there in my book. We've asked for 0. So if we're purchasing new software, is that not to go in the 542 line? Or do we already have this software, and so the 46,000 is just for service and maintenance on that? Or I was kind of trying to figure out the difference between buying the software and then servicing the software.
Said it exactly. The 54 account is for purchasing software, and the 52 is for the maintenance agreements on the service of the software after purchase.
But
Okay.
Councilwoman Cobble, just for a heads up, we know how much the open record software is going to cost, but we're still going to put it out for bid next year because we did a small contract with them this year, which was under $5,000 just to test it out. But we're going to put that out for bid next year. And I'm sorry, I have my great niece here.
Okay.
But also, we're going to do a bid for agenda software. I have really no idea how much that's going to cost. So when we get that figure, I would ask for a budget amendment at that time.
Okay, so yeah, so we just need to move the 46 to the 54240 line.
No, it needs to stay there because it's going to be, we're paying for a service. We're not actually buying the actual software.
For all three, for MuniCode, agenda software, and open records?
Yeah, because mostly all software at this point is cloud
licensing cloud. Okay, all right. Got it. Gotcha.
So also along those lines, Councilwoman Cobble, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
On the software issue, Megan, have we covered does that cover all the softwares? I mean, because I know we had some other subscription-based services that we was looking at. I know we're doing the city website, the subscription-based. I know that we was at one point talking about doing something with something different with GIS, I believe it was, or one other package that we were thinking about or considering doing something else with. So certainly, I mean, this would be an opportune time to add whatever potential subscription-based, web-based applications to the budget, because I know some of those are pretty expensive.
They are, but those are not in my department.
Oops. Okay.
The GIS would fall up under the GIS department. The website, I believe, is falling under communications, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
So
it is.
you'll see those line items further down the budget.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, let me just get clarity on something that you're working on, and that is the MuniCode. Is that a monthly recurrence in terms of cost, or is that an annual flat rate?
I believe it's an annual flat rate.
Okay. And there's one other item there, and that is election services. We're looking at possibly $50,000. And I had a note that said, might this number be impacted by COVID if we're still dealing with that issue come this time next year? So I know we can't carry anything over from this year. So we're just going to look to deal with possible relief if we are impacted by additional costs for election driven by COVID.
I would say so, but I believe we have an IGA with DeKalb County, and it's a set rate of $50,000. So
COVID or no COVID, okay.
COVID or no
Good.
COVID. But I think if we want to do extra stuff like that's outside of the IGA, then we would have to do a separate contract, and we could do a budget amendment at that time.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Megan, along similar lines to what Councilman George Turner was just asking, on the advertising line, looking at a year that was not a COVID year, so the year before that, we spent 49. So, and then we budgeted 6 this year. Obviously, I think COVID affects a lot of what comes out of advertising. But you've asked to increase that to 4. So just looking at what we spent in a non-COVID year, which also happened to be an election year, we didn't spend the 6 that we budgeted, that we increased to for this year. So what do you anticipate coming that would need to cause us to go from the 6 to 10?
Well, this is actually a non-election year for us this year.
Right, 21 would be, right.
21 would be an election year, and I would have to do several advertisements for that.
Right, so 19 was also an election year, and we only spent 49. So,
Right.
So that's what I'm asking. Just looking at 19, and it would almost mimic 21. It was a non-pandemic year, and it was an election year, and we only spent 49. So what are you anticipating that would increase to go from spending maybe $5,000 to spending 10?
I will have to get back with you on that answer. I know that Travis and I discussed it, and I may have not. I don't think I looked at the 2019 budget. I just looked at the 2020 budget and saw that, you know, we budgeted 6 for this year or for 2020. So then I was anticipating the elections, which is why I went up 4. So we might be able to go down on that one. I'll look into that one.
Okay.
One of the things too that gets lost, and you'll have to forgive me, I haven't been able to analyze the budget well enough to know the answer to this, but you know, also just, you know, the advertising of other things, and I'm not sure if that falls under development or, you know, even finance has to advertise the budget. The millage rate, we didn't have to advertise for that in 19. That's something that an additional that you have to advertise for now as well.
And I think there's some advertising in some of the different departments too.
I think that's what I was anticipating, was adding that as well into that. But if we can move that to finance and they can, you know, put that in their advertising budget, that's fine as well. I just want to make sure we have enough. But I mean, if we go over, we'll just at one time, one big sweep, we could do a budget amendment.
Yeah, and it's not a huge amount. I was just curious on what do we anticipate coming. that
Really
we
good
didn't have in the, yeah.
Really good
It's
question.
not, it's nothing for us to
Okay,
spend days about.
sounds good.
Stay with me, Megan. The 53,100, the operating supplies. Again, we don't need to spend 100 days on supplies, but it looks like we spent 18,000. Is that right? And this year, um,
I believe
and we only budgeted 3, but we're only asking for 3.
right, because I purchased a lot of stuff for COVID when
Okay.
we were all working from home. We had to buy laptop bags. I mean, there was like a lot of stuff we had to buy quickly, including even cell phones for the people that were going to be working from home. And we finally got those on a plan. You know, they were with like the prepaid companies. So a lot of that was that.
Okay.
We're not planning on doing that next year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I figured that's what it
actually,
was. It was just such a big gap. I was like, let me just make sure.
and actually, we have not done a full accounting of all of the COVID expenses we've had to incur. So that's an exercise. We'll probably be starting that in next week or so, and pull out all of the expenses that we've incurred for COVID relief. Because we will have to because the plan is then to reimburse the general operating fund for those funds. Okay.
Right. Yep. Yep. I figured it was some one-time cost that we didn't anticipate, but I just want to double check because it was double digits there.
$18,000. I totally understand.
Yeah.
It's a big number. It sticks out.
Yep. That's all I had for the clerk section, please.
All right. Well, I'll see y'all later.
That's actually typically
No,
how
I
we've
need to
done the
ask you about-
budget
I got
retreat.
Well, but remember, we're only going through Councilwoman Cobble at this time. My list is like twice as long as hers. So don't go nowhere. Don't go nowhere.
I'll trail them just for you.
Yeah, this is like unfortunately our in-person budget retreat, kind of, on Zoom, when you all come and each department kind of presents their recommendations. It's just on Zoom this time. So everybody get your snacks. Public Works, we can move. So that's 05135. Just out of curiosity, because it's not detailed in the budget book, what are we considering to be technical services? So we budgeted for it in the past 2 years, didn't use it. I guess we anticipate maybe trying it again for this year, but what exactly are we considering to be technical services? You're muted, please.
So that'll be some of our engineering services, other types of technical, if we need to get a like a tow trucks and other types of heavy duty types of services. And really, once again, that's really just sort of like a placeholder there in case we need it. We haven't taken on all of our public work stuff, but there may be some things that pop up throughout the year that we just want to just be prepared for. If we need somebody to go out and cut some trees down, or DeKalb County might be kind of slow getting to something, and then we can just bring someone on and take care of that in the interim.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I need all of
I'm
that.
gonna write a note.
I need all of that for District 5.
And that's just juxtaposed with the professional services. So that's the consulting, getting drawings and those type of things. As we move into this coming up year, as we we're going to have a discussion around. We'll have a real quick discussion about the capital improvement plan.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to start getting engineering designs and those type of things for the stuff that we want to do. So that's the professional services side there.
Okay. I am gonna come back to professional services, but I'm going to skip to contractual service and then work my way backwards for these two lines. Well, maybe I don't have to. I'm going to go in order. Okay, so let's talk about professional services. I have a recommendation to increase that line to 542. And I have that recommendation because, and I'm going to just speak for myself here for a second and say that I don't know when we will be prepared to take on public works in its entirety. And so because of that, I wanted to make sure that we had enough in that line to augment some of the public works services that are being delivered from DeKalb County that we can augment. For instance, right-of-way maintenance, servicing our roads that is not SPLOST related, but is just maintenance related. Seeing that DeKalb County had decreased the millage for public works to below a mill. I would imagine that we would need to no matter, we're obviously, at some point going to take public works on, but in between that time, if they're reducing the millage to under a mill, they obviously are planning to reduce the services delivered to Stonecrest. So I wanted to make sure that we had enough in that line where we could augment those services, considering that they kind of show their hand a little bit by reducing the millage, that we just had plenty there for those public work services that we need to really supplement from DeKalb County. So I increased that line to 542, but I got that 142,000 from the contractual services line. And I'll tell you, I did that not to move it from contractual services. So it would stay there, but I reduced that number to make sure that we had enough in the line before it. So just trying to think of so again, this our budget our contract for Jacobs and this service is lump sum. So we really don't know what makes up this 302,000. So trying to, I guess, pick apart that a little bit. I looked at, what is the cost of, or the salary for a public works director, and then one staff member kind of in there. So looking at maybe there's an $85,000 salary plus some fringe for a director, and then let's say there's someone else that kind of works in the public works department, maybe 30-40% of the time, or 30 or 40% of the workload rather. Just trying to figure out what that number would be. Not that is how Jacobs came up with their number, but I guess try to align that where I could understand what makes up 302. And then if we were to decrease that, could we still supply or fund of sorts public works director and then another public works employee in that line? Could Jacob still deliver that service? So I came up with about 160-ish, 180 in that area. So that's where the 142 came from, essentially. And I know, Travis, you and Gia will do the numbers, and that's fine. I'm just kind of giving you my thought process. I reduced the contractual services line, and by that same number, increased the professional services line. So feel free to do your magic how you want to do that. I just wanted to make sure that there was enough in the line before it, considering that DeKalb County dropped the public works millage to below a mill.
Yeah, so you're taking the 142 out of the
302.
Okay. Well, it's 317. It's on here.
Well, right, but that's the recommended, but we budgeted for 302. So just thinking about what we budgeted for this year, for 2020.
Okay.
And there may be ways to work that number out better, where there isn't so much of an impact on that line. So feel free to do that.
To look at whether that 142 that you'd like to move, whether that goes into technical services, would technical services be the one? So let me do a little research as to where that would more than likely need to go, to be honest with you. Okay.
Okay. And then plus while you're doing that, I kind of had the same thought process for the repairs and maintenance line. Kept the 60 there. Just made a note that that could also be included in what we use to augment some of the DeKalb County services as well. So you'd have that 60 plus, another 500 and some plus the 15 for technical services. I didn't know what that was when I first looked at it, so I didn't include it originally. But now that I know, hopefully between all of that together, that gives us a good pot.
Okay. So basically, what we're looking at doing is augmenting the anticipated decrease in services from DeKalb County.
Yep.
Certain areas, and so okay. We'll try to figure something out around those areas, because we'll need to work out something with DeKalb County as well. As okay.
Well, they can. I mean, I guess the way I'm looking at it is, let's say they cut the grass and pick up the trash once every 5 weeks. We could, contract to augment that service where we're now having someone come pick up the trash and cut the grass 2 weeks. And now together it's being addressed, 3 out of the 4 weeks out of the month, or out of a 6-week period, it's being addressed 4 weeks, something like that.
Okay. Yep.
Mr. Chairman, are we still looking into the public works? Are we still strategizing beyond Jacobs on the public works issue?
Yeah.
I knew we had talked about bringing somebody aboard at some point in time.
Yeah. So actually, we are in the process of pulling together what that all looks like. DeKalb County is asking that when we take on public works, that we take on all of public works, roads and drainage, as well as the stormwater utility that goes along with it. So,
so all those got to be considered. So
now we're having to go back to the drawing board and look at how much does it cost, equipment, all those kinds of things. So we're actually pulling all those numbers together, and I'll probably come into the council and actually probably in a month or so.
Because this is probably going to move into the arena of a budget amendment, without a doubt.
Oh yeah.
If we're moving towards public works within the next 12 months.
Yep.
So.
Well, yeah, especially considering that the millage that you would transfer is significantly less than what it was a year ago or even a year before that.
Absolutely.
Bringing over less than a mill.
To fulfill that need. You're right. And we have an obligation to fulfill that need. So certainly maybe looking at a budget amendment.
Yep, definitely. And making sure logistics is aligned for sure, to pull that over, at the appropriate time, because we'll have to have a lot of conversation about how do we supplement that revenue, because less than a mill is not going to be enough for us to provide all of those services.
Oh, no, we'll have to find some other sources of revenue for that.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Let's see. So this may be one for Travis. So, and I'm saying this jokingly, but when I thought that you sliced our travel budget by 80%, I wanted to know why the travel budget in this line did not decrease like some of the others did in the other departments. But now that I know that you weren't just telling us to sit down somewhere, there was a method behind that madness. I noticed that travel in public works did not decrease, or what you're asking for did not decrease from the prior year. So do you anticipate having quite a bit of travel expense in 2021, please?
Yeah, so that really goes to all of the classes and those type of things that we have to go to. So there's as you know, we have our deputy city engineer is also Mikhail Beebe, and So we'll need to. He's going to be ramping up as soon as our travel restrictions are lifted to start attending his GDOT classes and all those other things that we need for public works.
Okay. The only other thing I had in this section was, where's my note? So I guess it's a similar question to what I had for Megan, and again, not to mull over supplies, but you anticipate needing about 4,200 for supplies for the coming year. Just looking at the non-COVID year, we only spent about 15. But you anticipate needing about that 42 for supplies?
Yeah, once again, it was just whatever the number was that was there.
Okay.
There's no calculus that went into
Okay.
just the number there.
And then please remind me, this transfer, that's LMEG, right? The transfer infrastructure improvement?
Yeah, and so actually we moved that to another place in the budget. For some reason it was being dropped down here in public works area. But we now, correct me if I'm wrong, we actually have it.
You have it at 0.
Yeah, it may be its own fund now. I believe it's its own fund for that.
But we take that match out of SPLOST though, right? We don't take that out of the general fund.
Yeah, so the match comes out of SPLOST.
Right.
But actually this looks like the actual the LMIG money. So I think we're maybe dropping the LMIG money into the SPLOST fund.
Okay. Okay.
So basically we'll receive the money into the general fund and the revenue, and then there's a line item under, I believe, other financing uses where you'll see a transfer out. So it's being transferred out to SPLOST and basically put in there to just combine with the SPLOST money because that's where your match is.
Gotcha. Okay. Just FYI, please, I'm only gonna go through all the way through finance, and then I promise you I'm gonna stop and let somebody else pick up the rest of the sections.
Councilwoman, do you promise?
No.
You're burning your you're burning up. We need to ask the rest of the council.
I was about to say I just need equal amount of time. That's all I'm requiring. Just equal amount.
I'm just hoping that by the time they get to me, it'll all be covered already.
It's all flushed out.
Quickly,
no, absolutely not.
Yeah, I'm hoping y'all let sit Councilwoman Cobble all of y'all's notes, and she's just going through all y'all's notes right now. So
nope, not at all.
But back to Travis on that last item I was looking at transportation infrastructure improvement. That's transfer of okay.
It is transportation infrastructure improvement, and what is happening, the LMIG money comes into our general fund, and then he's moving it from the general fund into the SPLOST money.
And that just zeroes itself out. So it shows an in and out.
It's not coming to public works as we were doing before. So like I said, Travis and Gia, they know exactly what they're doing. Before it should not have been coming into public works, basically.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. So for public safety, 05136, I just recall that we had that 24,000 in there for the feasibility study, and looks like we have done the feasibility study. So are we anticipating needing a professional service again for 2021 for 24,000?
Not that I know of.
I think kind of chime in on that, please.
Breaking up a little bit, Adrian.
Oh, I just asked players if he wanted me to kind of chime in on that from the committees.
Please do.
Okay. Yes, the feasibility study is done. One of the things that was mentioned with the committee is if the council decides to accept some of the recommendations of the feasibility study, that there may be money or maybe a recommendation for money to possibly hire a police chief toward the fourth quarter of next year. So that was one of the reasons that I put that in there. It may not even be enough but it might be enough to get us some money toward the latter part of the year to begin actually implementing some of the recommendations from the feasibility study.
Okay. Definitely something to think about. Public works and public safety in 1 year is a big bite.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to chime in here. This is Mayor.
Okay.
Just as Mr. Bell said, first of all, we you all will see it at the next meeting. You have the full study in your packet anyway from this past meeting, but we'll have the next available executive that put that study together for our committee from Carl Vincent Institute to make a formal presentation. It is my desire that in January we, as council and mayor, vote to give DeKalb County their 24-month notice. And that's what we would have to have to legally take on our own police department without conflict. And that would put us into 2023, January 2023, to come on board as a police department. So as Mr. Bell said earlier, we left money in the budget for fourth quarter, possibly, having a police chief or even a consultant if necessary, so that we can make our 2-year mark. That's the thinking behind that.
Okay. Well, I guess that explains why there's some money in education and training and operating supplies. Because that was my next question, kind of who, I guess, for education and training and what for operating supplies. But I guess you're saying that all that's to be considered for fourth quarter. Should we agree to move in that direction? So I understand that. Let me write a note, sorry, on that. Fourth quarter. Okay. That's all I have for the public safety section. So finance section, 05151. I want to make a recommendation, but ask a question first. So on the audit services line, the description in the budget book is for audit services, including the single audit for the COVID funds. So I wanted to ask, is the expense for the single audit for the COVID funds, can that not come out of the COVID funds? Or do we have to have all the COVID funds, spent by December 31st, and you can't carry anything over in order to pay for an audit in the next year?
Yes.
That's the problem.
So everything COVID related, everything. Go ahead, Travis.
No, I was just saying she's correct, and everything COVID related has to be spent by the end of this year. So the audit, of course, wouldn't occur to next year, so we can't use those funds.
Okay. That's what I figured, but I just wanted to double check. So I have recommended to make this line 90,000. So to add 20 to it. So we can budget for some additional audit services throughout the year, should we need to, similar to what we just asked for the government and purchasing cards. There may be additional audit services throughout the year. So I just recommended that we added 20 there.
So 52110, go from 70 to 90.
Yep. The next line, the professional services line. So the description in the budget book is that this is for general liability insurance and then pre-audit services. looking at what we've spent in this year and what we spent last year, we're roughly about, like 50,000 or so. So we budgeted 120 and didn't change it, keeping it at 120 recommendation. That's about a $70,000 difference. Are we anticipating that what's in the budget book as pre-audit services would be that 70,000? Or did we just keep that number because it was there before?
So it's not gonna, I guess it'll be related to the audit. It's not just pre-audit services. There'll be probably some advice needed on, we made a lot of complex purchases this year and stuff. We have a URA, a DDA, a housing authority, and all of those, so sometimes there may be a need for outside help with some of those kind of funky transactions that you just don't normally come across.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense. Just curious, just because the number was the same for the last 3 years and what we expended was almost the same. So I was just curious. Okay, the next line, contractual services. So I'm going to mimic kind of the recommendation for the city manager and the city clerk and mimic that here for the finance area, to add a regular salary line, and for that to include the internal auditor, the accounting manager, the purchasing manager, and the finance director.
What were those roles again?
Internal auditor, accounting manager, purchasing manager, finance director. And if my thing will let me scroll over, why won't you let me scroll?
I heard internal auditor, accounting manager, procurement.
Purchasing, yeah, procurement or purchasing, either one. Purchasing manager, procurement manager, one and the same, and finance director.
Okay.
So I'm going to throw out my recommended number. Similar philosophy to the prior to, looking at not only the what's posted on the GMA site and community affairs, and just looking across the state. Looking nationally. GMA has obviously just Georgia on there, and then looking nationally. What I looked at is for the accounting manager, a base of 50,000 to include fringe, so that kind of takes it to 80. The internal auditor, bringing that on as a city employee. I know what that's not in contractual services now. I couldn't put my finger on where the internal auditor's contract is on this line. I thought maybe Travis was going to say that that's what was in that professional services line. But it looks like that's just a GMA general liability. So I'm sure it's in this budget somewhere. But anyway, I moved it to regular salaries to make the internal auditor. As you know, our current internal auditor recommended that we have a full-time internal auditor. So keeping with that in mind, I looked at 65,000 base with fringe, so 104. A purchasing manager, looked at a base of 60 with fringe, took it to 96. And then a finance director, looked at it as a base of 75 with fringe, took it to 120. So when you add all that, it totals to 400. So the recommendation for that line is 400,000. To Gia's point, that obviously does include some of those other benefit cost that fringe just doesn't capture it all. But the recommendation is 400,000, and to make those 4 positions city staff members. And you've heard me say, probably more than you want me to keep repeating, that having our finance team under the same contract, so kind of overseeing its own contract, really causes some conflict for me. in separating those out and making sure that the city's interests are always what's up front, and that we are not combining the contractor and having them kind of oversee and do processes with the contract that it actually services. So anyway, long story short, I wanted to move that out, make them city folks, and put 400,000 on that line. So,
Councilwoman Cobble.
Yep.
This is Joel.
Hi.
In keeping in line with consistency and transparency, I would ask that you consider that the city internal auditor, to be consistent with the charter, perhaps that salary should be in the city council department.
Oh, it's a good point. Yeah. Not in the finance department.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Okay, so what would so for our consideration would be moving that internal auditor position to the council area.
I barely hear you, please. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. So if I'm hearing correctly, we're talking from what Joel said, move the internal auditor stuff to the city council area.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. He's recommending take it out of the finance area of the budget, move it to the city council area of the budget, since
No.
it's a city council employee, I guess.
No, I think that's something that we should probably be looking at. My only concern now is that finance team, even with the auditor included, or particularly if it's not included, would be salary-wise, the amount set aside.
Oh, we lost you.
Can you hear me?
We heard, the last thing we heard was amount set. I guess you're going to say set
Set
aside.
aside, yeah, was 400,000. And when we look back at the amount that you had suggested set aside for constituent services was 440,000. So, I don't know how, again, that's why we probably need to look at these numbers real close, just to make certain, as what I thought Joe was going to address was that we're consistent with, the pay scale versus the job requirement.
Councilmember
Sure. And
Clanton.
remember that had an additional that had 5, I guess, employees. But I do hear you. I think the base was 55 for the constituent support. The base was 55 plus the fringe added it, increased it some. But you're right. I think that the team should definitely go back, scrub the numbers, and make sure they're appropriate for the job title and the duty. But I was just saying the 440 is over 5 employees. This 400 was over 4 employees.
Might I?
Sure.
I guess I just wanted to say I was gonna chime in earlier and ask before we even got to this point, if council would be open to having us contract with someone to do a salary and benefit study, because having recently been on the job market and also having that done in another city, I can tell you the numbers that you're quoting for Metro Atlanta are probably a bit low, and you're probably not going to attract the type of talent that you want for the Metro Atlanta area. Because, the state numbers are skewed because you have a lot of small counties, small cities or what have you, where their pay is really low, whereas you have...
And you can't go by states.
Well, yeah, and
Right.
trust me, I know 100% that state is lower. Trust me, if I go to the open market, I would get paid way more. So I hear you loud and clear. And I didn't use state numbers, just so you know. I used job announcements that are out there right now in the state of Georgia, not the state of Georgia employee numbers, but the job announcements for different cities that are being advertised currently. But feel free to, like I said, scrub the numbers. We want to make sure that we're getting quality, employees that that we can hopefully keep for a very long time. So that's just a rough recommendation number for me. If there's a better way to get to a good solid number, all ears wide open, totally wide open. But I did want you to know that those are not numbers I got from state advertisements. Those are numbers I got from, like, if you go on GMA site right now, there's, random cities and counties that have job descriptions or job advertisements out there with their salaries posted.
Right.
Yeah, and I agree that we should probably definitely set aside some time and some effort into looking at the salaries and the recommendations from a different perspective. Even though I do trust the numbers that Councilwoman Cobble is putting forth, as I have also went out to GMA. I'm a GMA junkie. And seeing a lot of the salaries, but it is true also what Travis is saying, that when you look at those numbers on GMA's website, even you'll see that some of these, it's just depending on what city you're in.
Oh yeah, the range is crazy.
Yeah. And Councilwoman Cobble did mention the fact that she was looking at cities that were relatively the same size, but beyond the size, you also find that there's a difference in marketplace as well. So you can have a city that's the same size, but it is in a different section of the state, and the salaries don't match up the same.
Yep. No, absolutely. Yep. South Georgia, North Georgia, rural Georgia, and Metro are going to vary for sure. Yep.
What I heard was a suggestion that we consider setting aside or creating a fund to cover that, and how much are we considering in order to get the study done? Travis?
I'm not exactly sure. We could. I think if
say
we
it, Travis.
Aside,
just say it.
I think if we set aside $50,000, I think we'd be good. I was involved in the study in the other city, but I wasn't involved on putting the contract out and everything. But if I remember correctly, I think 50-ish, and that may be high. I'm hoping I'm remembering on the high side.
So how about if we add 50,000 to the professional services?
And Travis, you think that would cover for all of the, I guess, positions that we're looking at, not just in this finance area of the budget, but also when we were looking at the city manager, looking at the city clerk, we can do a study on everything.
Well, the idea would be not only those positions, but any potential future positions. So, we'd have them go ahead and look at police and public works and everything.
Okay.
And that way you'd have some type of framework when if you do decide to bring those positions in-house, you'd kind of already know what to expect salary and benefits wise.
Right. Okay. Great suggestion. Appreciate that. I have a question about the software, similar to what we were looking at under the city clerk software. I want to make sure I understand it correctly. So the software line, we're looking at purchasing ERP software. And then there's a statement in the budget book on that line that says in future budgets, we'll need to add funding for licensing and maintenance. So when I look at this service contracts line, and there's obviously some money there. And then in the budget book under that description, it says ERP to include auditing features. So I wasn't sure if you've already accounted for we're purchasing the ERP in 2021. So you wouldn't need a service contract until the following year. So what ERP to include audit services are you referring to under the service contract line?
So we currently have systems that we're using. And so we would need to continue those contracts. And, I fully expect it, depending on how soon we pick something, it's going to be a 6 to 9 month implementation. So I don't, it's not a situation where we'll pick some new software and be able to stop paying the maintenance on what we currently have. We're going to have to continue to pay that until we, fully are up and running. And then, of course, in future years, and it may not be a situation where we're adding money to the budget for the whatever we picked. We will have purchased the software, and then the maintenance for that could be covered by what we already have there.
I want to jump in over here, Travis. The GASB pronouncement has come out that governments can now capitalize software service as subscription. And so that leaves the city with the option of actually utilizing SPLOST funds in order to actually purchase the software and the implementation and all the costs therein, and then expensing out the licensing and maintenance in the out years. So that's an option that's now there for the city. The GASB pronouncement only came out last month or the month before last. So we've all been waiting for that, all of us in public auditing. And so that's an option that's there for the city at this point.
That's good to know. I wasn't aware that that went through.
Sweet. So we can save $100,000 here. Pelez is not happy about it. Don't come over for this floss.
Leave my SPLOST alone.
Right.
So may I ask Joel? Joel, would there be a cap on how much of the SPLOST money could be used? I don't know if I missed
it. Now that I'm talking, we'd have to go back to see what the language was in our SPLOST referendum to see if there was anything there for administrative or other general capital expenses. That would be something that we would have to look at in our SPLOST language. If we only said parks and roads, then we would not be able to. But I think anything that's related to city capital investment, that's kind of more of a general, we can do that.
Yeah, I think it was a minimum amount. We had to do at least 15% or something like that had to go to capital.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that this amount fits neatly into a category.
So we have some room for that. So yeah, we're fine. We're fine.
Okay, I was when I asked that with that 15% that I've heard about in mind. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, but that's 15% of the total 43 million that Stonecrest is expecting to receive.
Not just our yearly allotment.
Not just your annual amount, correct.
Thank you for that clarity. I appreciate that.
That'll be something that we hopefully get to a little later, is that capital discussion.
I'll hold my thoughts.
If Councilwoman Cowell will ever get to the bottom of her list.
Man.
And you promised this was it now.
Well, I did. Yeah, I did. I got one more though. Sorry.
Adrian, mute Councilwoman Cowell.
Don't you
What you gonna do about me? You gonna mute me too?
I'll let you back in, you know.
I appreciate it.
I'm having flashbacks to last week's presidential debate. So.
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
I don't have any questions on the legal services side. Actually, that's not true. The one question I have is, what were we looking at for professional services in that line? Not that that's a large amount compared to the total, but we have 20 and then we have 0 we didn't use it in 2019 or 2020. And I can't tell in the budget book what that was for. So we've got professional services, attorney fees, and then other attorney fees. So I didn't know what the professional services was, that 20 grand.
I can only imagine that was, so we just carried it over.
Okay.
Didn't
okay. Got some questions on the economic development side. I don't know if Councilman Rob Turner, you want to start here, talk about a little bit about film, and then I can
Yeah,
kind
I
of.
do, Councilwoman. Thank you. Just for a couple of minutes. I'm not going to take away
No.
any thunder. But I do want to go to Economic Development 05155 and talk really about the first question is about 34120 film permitting. Understanding that in 2021, we're looking from going from a film committee to a film commission will give us a stronger presence in the community. I'm very concerned about the film permitting part of that because a lot of the movies are now starting back up. A lot of things are coming back in place that were, stifled during this pandemic. And I noticed that we don't have any money budgeted for film permitting. Understanding that we have a film permitting area in place, but what about for upgrades? What about for maintenance? We're not doing anything in reference to the film committing, the market permitting that we have. I guess I can ask Clarence or either I can ask Travis those two questions. Those two.
Councilman Turner, I'd be glad to answer your question. I think that there is certainly an opportunity of being able to get more money for the budget for that. When I took a look at the budget last year, we had significantly raised the budget prior to that, prior in the year prior. But I think you're right. You're absolutely right with film coming online right now and opportunities of being able to grow opportunities for our citizens through jobs in the area as well as support from other businesses. I think it is absolutely needed to be able to increase the dollars on that line item.
Do you have any numbers in mind in reference to that? I know we did 5,000 last year. Are we looking at that same amount, or are we looking at more?
Well, if you look at the budget, we've actually increased two other line items in the film department.
You mean the 30,000?
Yes.
Okay, I was going to that next. Okay.
Okay.
So
I'm sorry. I'm having to switch back and forth between the Zoom and the budget. But there are you'll see. I apologize for having to scroll through. You will see film permitting, film marketing, going to $30,000. We've included that 5,000 within that dollar figure. So we've increased it. We've rolled the 5,000 into the 20 plus added another 5,000 to it.
So we're just leaving film permitting line item just up there with a zero, even though we are utilizing film permitting or utilizing that amount, but we're just putting it in another line item.
Unless you feel, sir, that there's a need for more money in film permitting, and as you know, once again, we are growing in that area in the city.
Well, I was thinking along the line. Again, this is a rough estimation, and again, about 10,000 to double that, simply because a lot of other things are happening, and we're moving forward and a stronger presence in the community. We're having more studios coming in. We're having more involvement with the productions and things going forward. So I was looking at the possibility of going from 5,000 to 10,000. That's just my recommendation for that.
So would you want to maintain the 30 and then add 10,000 more to it?
Add another 5,000 to it.
10,000 under film permitting.
Another 5,000 in reference to film permitting. Or we're not breaking it out like that. We're just looking at the overall picture of 30,000 or 35,000. I guess that's my question.
30,000, but you could add 5,000 more to just the film permitting line item.
Okay, that's what I was looking at, because with the film marketing, there's a couple other things I wanted to talk with you about, again, understanding of.
Certainly.
Okay, and speaking of that 52,134, I'm looking at the $20,000, and I don't know if that's enough. It'll be 20,000 for this. Enough for film festivals, training sessions, memberships, all calls, all these other kind of things, and possible even salary, because we have to have somebody, or we're looking at somebody in that area. So would $30,000 be enough for that?
Well, one of the things that I was very cognizant about the budget this year versus what we had last year. Mm-hmm. I think we definitely need to take a look at increasing that if you feel that that's reasonable. One of the things that I think we need to consider is the fact that obviously 2020 was was an anomaly year that that hopefully we'll never experience again. But if we go back to anywhere close to 2019 with the growth that we were experiencing in that year, if any of that comes back, I think we need to look at raising the dollars in 2021, because I'd rather allocate money in the event that we can use it than not allocate it and we need to use it later on. So I would like your suggestions as to what you feel would be an appropriate addition to the number that I've budgeted.
Well, I look at $50,000 as an appropriate number for that. Now, looking again back at the film permitting will eventually pay for itself because they'll be paying for permits and all these other things. I've been getting a lot of permits coming in. So that in a sense, is kind of like a wash, so it'll be paying for itself. But for the other activities that we're going to be doing for, like I said, possibly salary of a person working in the commission, primarily, maybe on a full-time, maybe on a part-time to start, I'm not sure. But doing the things we need to do to make our presence known or stronger in the community, working with the CAB Film Commission, all these other areas that's coming about, I think we definitely need a minimum of 50,000. Well,
Councilman Turner, within my line item for professional services is $20,000 for an individual to work and assist in the film department.
Okay, so then we're looking at, if I'm understanding, $55,000 total for film.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that will be shown in the budget for that. Am I correct in reference to the specific areas that we talked about?
Correct. We'll need to adjust that.
Okay, so
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so film permitting, are you saying that you're adding any to that from zero?
$5,000.
$5,000. Okay.
Is that correct, Councilman Turner?
Yes, because you have 5,000 in film marketing for it, right? So that will make it 10,000.
Yes.
Okay, right.
No. Okay, we're talking about line items here. So line item 5,000 for film permission. 5,000.
Right.
Okay. 52134. Film marketing. Right now it's at 30,000. Did I hear that goes to 50?
No, Councilman Turner, would that stay where it was, and then the under professional services have $20,000?
Yes.
For someone in there.
Yes, exactly.
All right, you two. Okay.
Right, now I'm confused.
Okay.
All right.
You increase in
film marketing is at 30,000.
Yes.
Does it stay at 30?
Yes, stays at 30.
Okay.
And if you wanted me to break it down a little bit with that, out of that 35,000 is going toward film permitting. Does that make sense? You got that? You understand that?
We have $5,000 for film permitting.
Right, and then we have 25,000 for film marketing.
25,000. So it goes from 30 to 25.
No, so Plez, what Rob is doing is just explaining to you what's making up the 30.
Right.
So of the 30, I guess Clarence will use 25 for consulting services, and then 5,000 will be film permitting. So it's still a total of 30.
Okay.
So Councilwoman Cobble, so I actually have someone. Well, we'll address that in professional services.
Okay. So what we need to do is, for our purposes tonight, all we need to know is what goes in the box. So film marketing, $30,000 stays there.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Total. Okay. And then I heard something about professional services. It's at 95,000. Did I hear we're adding 50 to that?
No.
Okay.
No,
So
that's staying the same. The only
unless you want to give me 50 players, I'm good.
the only Deputy City Manager, the only change we're making is $5,000 in film permitting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So all that talk y'all just did.
Just add $5,000.
Just added $5,000 for film permitting.
Right.
So there's not a total of 10,000 for film permitting. There's only a total of 5,000.
Okay, Ms. Grimes.
Yes, but only because 5,000 is somewhere else.
Right.
So yes.
Y'all are killing me.
I'm only interested in 34,120. Am I writing 5 or 10?
5.
5.
Thank you. That's it.
First base. Who's on first base? Okay.
Right. It's funny.
Okay, thank you very much. You can have it back.
out of the last 15 minutes, y'all $5,000 of film permitting.
Yeah, because I didn't know what the other $20,000 were.
So, Jonah, then if we just want $5,000, we can just ask for that and get that just no problem, just to move along.
Thank you, Councilman. I appreciate you. So generous. Appreciate you.
Give it back to me, please, because Rob is butchering it.
Keep everybody awake. I'm sorry.
Please, Jasper, take over here.
I'm through. I'm finished.
These guys are rank amateurs. Woo.
Thank you, Director Boone. I appreciate you. Thank you.
No problem.
Not to complicate things, but Travis, you have a note to change that film permitting account number to a expenditure account number and not a revenue. The 34, right, is a revenue account. Or Gia, you can answer.
I'm sorry, I'm having technical difficulties here.
Okay, I think Gia said she covered it. We're gonna make sure that account number changes.
That's part just an oversight. So yeah, so we'll take it that account number.
Is it on the spreadsheet?
Yeah. It's on the spreadsheet. It's 34,120. It probably should be 52 something.
Yeah, it definitely should. I think Councilwoman Cobble and I already talked about that. I don't know how that
it was in the prior
in
budget. Yeah, so I realized today. I was like, oh shoot, it's in this one too. So okay. So I know you all just finished with all that, moving that $5,000 around, but Clarence, can you explain now, not about the dollar amount, but can you explain the difference between film permitting and film marketing?
Film permitting is for the app that we have associated with an app and cost associated with being able to have our own film permitting process for the city.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, you said film marketing, that versus film marketing. Film marketing is for the programs that the film committee proposed to me that they needed funding for, such as all calls and vendor support and film festivals and things of that sort.
Okay. So permitting, we're just putting money toward a process for film permitting.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm about to undo what you just did, and I'm so sorry. But why are you keeping 5,000 then under film marketing, but kind of earmarking it for film permitting? Why aren't you just putting the entire 10 in film permitting?
That's an excellent question. I think we're anticipating that it will cost $5,000 to be able to handle the process of film permitting, but in the event that it doesn't, where in the event that it's only able to take that, we can utilize that money in our film marketing. But it's your choice as to how you would recommend that we do it. I want to make sure to keep it clean.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. If you think 5,000 is the appropriate estimate, then that's fine. And if it goes over, you can do your thing to move some money from a line. Okay.
Thank you.
I thought you were just trying to, I don't know, just curious. Okay. I want to ask you a question about your professional services line.
Yes.
The 95, you recommended 95. So when I read your description in professional services, and you and I talked about this in our one-on-one, but you mentioned in here about a new component for workforce development.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask you about the difference between that initiative, and it looks like we have a contract or had, because the year is coming to an end, with a company for workforce development. So how is that different? How are the two different? Are you swapping one out?
Well, we have a relationship with EAN International, who's an economic development consultant, and then we have a line item for our film liaison. We've never had a workforce development piece. I'm proposing that as a part of the increase for this year.
Okay, because I saw a report where we have or at least it's labeled this way as workforce development with NRB.
Yeah, yes, that's the new the new proposal. We've never had workforce development before.
Well, in this report we received, we have a contract with NRB for workforce development.
Okay, I'll need to review that. I don't have that in my notes.
Okay, so that was my question around that. I noticed that, and I'm not going to mention the vendor names that's in the book,
Okay.
but I noticed that it was different from what was current on the kind of report of contracts that we have.
Mhm.
So I was just curious if this was an extension of that, if this was kind of a second phase of that. So I'll wait to hear back from you on the differences in the two.
Right. NRB in that case, I do recall what that is. That's the workforce development component that we talked about before. That would be an extension where we would talk about the job fairs and contacting the companies, contacting the companies to be able to determine jobs and needs that they had.
So we're gonna have two now. We're gonna have NRB, who we currently have, and then this other one you're proposing here.
I need to look at that. NRB is new. I would need to look at that. I know that I sent some information over. I need to verify that.
Okay.
Okay. I apologize for any confusion, but NRB is a new component in economic development to work specifically with workforce. I apologize for any confusion.
Okay. No worries. I was just curious. Didn't want to make sure we're not duplicating services.
Right.
And it just jumped out to me.
I understand.
This is, I guess, for you and Rob. So you've captured some costs, some funds for permitting, some funds for just kind of general film committee or expenses. But you talked about, Rob, a little bit about bringing someone on, I guess full-time or part-time that would help with that. But we have a current contract for hold on, I'm trying to get the proper name for it. Film industry consulting, and that current contract surely does not fit in this 95,000 recommendation. So is that somewhere else?
As far as professional services, I wanted that to be in professional services.
So that current contract is 65,000. So
for film, no.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what her title is officially. What's her title, Rob?
She is the director of the Mayor's Office of Film.
Yes, film liaison.
Mm-hmm.
So where is that captured in your budget? I guess that's the short end of it. Is it can't be in, obviously, professional services because it itself is 65. So is it somewhere else?
If I'm not mistaken, that was one of the services that was being moved out of the mayor and council's line. It would now be moved back down on the economic development, I believe.
That's not listed in the description.
Okay. I might
You're talking about in that
mistaken.
180 increase? It's not written in there. Mm-mm.
Okay. My mistake.
No worries.
I need to take a look at that. I don't the $65,000 is something I'm not familiar with right now.
Okay. I don't want it to get lost, and
right.
then she looks up and you're like, how did you not? How did that happen?
Exactly.
Okay. So I'm going to put a note here to look at NRB versus the other proposed company, and then the liaison. Okay. The only other thing I want to ask you, Clarence, was I was surprised to see nothing in the budget for the economic development plan. Do we plan on doing that another year? You're not thinking about doing it in 21, maybe a different year?
Well, we originally had it budgeted for 2019, and as I came on board in the latter half of 2019, I asked for it to be moved to 2020 so I could have a full year under my belt. Obviously, March of this year, we experienced something that unlike the world has ever seen before in terms of the pandemic and how it's devastated the economy around the world. As we are looking at that, a big part of an economic development strategic plan is to be able to compare year over year or time periods that match up to the specific situation that we're in, and we have nothing like that. We have nothing like 2020 to compare to, unless you look at what some analysts are saying is the Great Depression of '29 or something to that effect. So we're going to need to have some time to be able to take a look at it. What I'm proposing is that we review this part of the year for sure, the first half, and then perhaps come back with a budget amendment to be able to take a look at putting that together. But right now, it would be completely unfair to take a look at the situation that we're in right now, especially with trends being estimating to have possibly another round of this flu season or the first quarter of next year. I hate to spend that money and then not have anything to compare it to. So that's my offer.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you. I knew it was something that we were looking for, but I was surprised not to see it. But that makes sense. We'll wait. We'll wait and evaluate it.
Right.
Do we have? Okay, Joel. I guess you gotta step in here for me since we don't have Winston or Anna Marie or anybody on the line. I want to talk about two more lines in this one. The food line and the capital lease line. So I understand the desire to be able to entertain potential developers and opportunities, but can we use taxpayer dollars in this fashion for client meals and things like that?
I don't see a problem with it as long as, like they was talking about, all calls and those type of vendor events for both film permitting as well as other events that may showcase the city or bring vendors in for meetings. So that's all permissible there. It's not taxpayer money for strictly entertainment. It's about attracting businesses to the city.
Okay, so can we move that?
Councilwoman Cobble, do you mind if I interject with your question?
Sure.
We yesterday, for example, Will and I took a group of developers who came to Stonecrest to take a look at the city. We were with them for approximately 4 hours that overlapped lunch. Fortunately for us, we worked through lunch, but if we hadn't, then we would have been productive to be able to have a lunch and be able to recap where we were and then discuss what they had seen to be able to enhance our sales call.
Yeah, no, Clarence, don't misunderstand me. I understand what you're asking for. I just wanted to make sure that we capture it correctly. Because as I read your description in the budget book, it specifically says for entertainment and client meals.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like Joel was guiding us more to if it's to accompany events that we're having for economic development, such as all calls or economic development fairs or something of that sort. It's less specific to client meals. So unless I'm getting a different feedback from you, Joel.
I would have to delve into that. As far as the client meals are concerned, because this is not a vendor situation. This is more of a trying to bring people in. It's more of marketing as opposed to, trying to deal with vendors. It's a marketing concept that they're trying to push out there. I'd have to actually study into that if you want a definitive answer right now.
Okay. So when I'm thinking of it in a practical sense, like how, obviously if we budget it here, we want to have to look back at I guess this would be reimbursable. I'm trying to make it practical for usage because you couldn't put it on a purchasing card, at least the way our card policy is written today. And you obviously wouldn't be able to, go to the accountant folks and say, cut me a check because I plan on having lunch, this month, X amount of times. So I guess it would be reimbursable.
And that's why my first comment was the way that it was, the way that it's laid out in the budget. It looks like something that will be planned ahead of time with maybe a purchase order, menus ordered ahead of time, that kind of thing, event related.
Right.
Even if it's a dinner, even if it is a sit down dinner, it will be planned ahead of time and planned as an event.
Right, which is obviously a little different than what Clarence was just describing as being out with vendors, during the day and kind of shopping the city around. Okay, so Clarence, let's take a look at that and just see what's the best way we can accommodate your request, but in a way that won't get us in trouble.
I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
Gia, did you take that note for us? I don't know if Plez is around. He might have stepped away.
Yes, I have it.
Okay, thank you.
And as far as the capital lease, I don't have any knowledge of what that lease is for. Management would have to explain that.
Okay, well, that was going to be my next question. So let's jump right in. This would be a request for an annual lease for an SUV. And similarly, that when economic development is entertaining, or it's probably not the best word to use, but when they are showing prospective clients tours of the city, that they want to be able to, pile everybody in and take them around the city. So they're asking for funds to lease a vehicle to do that.
And that happens quite regularly. Usually, what happens, what we're doing right now, is that if Will and I are able to are on the same meeting, then we're piling people in his car and my car and probably another developer's car, and we're having to transfer to have cell phone calls going back and forth to be able to talk about specific aspects of our tour. Whereas if we could be in one vehicle together that could hold 6 or 7 people, then we'd be able to be able to conduct those meetings on the road and be able to effectively work on selling the city and its attributes for during our meetings.
If you've got usage language around that, and you have directives, management directives, and record keeping surrounding the use of the vehicle, there's nothing wrong with the expenditure in and of itself. It's completely discretionary. So there's nothing prohibiting the city from doing that. I would only suggest that a very strong internal control be around that vehicle so that it's not misused, including that the lease should be in the name of the city, the possession of the vehicle should be the city's possession, and that its use is documented.
Yep. So 100% agree there. Obviously, fleet is what I do for a living. So thinking through all of the fuel card, thinking through insurance, thinking through ownership. One of the things you mentioned in your note here is that you all cannot drive Jacobs vehicles because you're not Jacobs employees. So I was thinking through that. If thinking through on the liability side, if we obviously have to insure the vehicle, and you all are not city employees. So if you were to drive this city vehicle, you know, like the insurance would cover the asset, the vehicle, but it wouldn't cover you all because you're not employees of the city. So for instance, you know, if you were an employee of the city, or for Jacob's folks, you know, workman's compensation more than likely covers their bodily injuries, and so on and so forth, because they're employees driving a vehicle owned by that employer. If we were to lease the vehicle or purchase the vehicle, insure the vehicle, your bodily injuries would not be covered by the city because you're not city employees. So I'm trying to work through how not being able to drive a Jacobs vehicle is any different than not being able to drive a city vehicle if you're not a city employee.
If I could jump in and answer that, I'll check with our insurance carrier tomorrow. I know that we have the same liability provider that we had at my previous employer. And I do believe we were able, because they had a citizens police force, which was obviously non-city employees that did drive city vehicles.
Right.
And I believe they were able to provide that coverage.
Okay. All right.
Might there be alternatives to consider, such that for this particular department, you have access to rental vehicles that fit the situation? I mean, if you know that you have 10 clients coming in next week, you rent a bigger vehicle. But if you know that you have 2 clients coming in a month from now, you would rent a different type of vehicle. What I'm saying is that, have we looked at what it will cost to maybe just have a contract with someplace like one of the local car rental operations to give us a quote to get these vehicles on demand? And try that for a year to see if that. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Councilman Turner. If I can answer that. If I can answer that question. We actually have quite a few site visits with businesses over the course of a week and a month. We may actually have opportunities of being able to take people out maybe 4 or 5 times a week. We're very, when we're very rarely in the office, even right now, when we don't have we have an opportunity of being able to go out and showcase that. Probably the only detriment to doing more of that is not being able to have a vehicle, of being able to conduct all of that at one time. I actually did think about that in the course of doing the budget, but it would almost be, we actually had a situation where we actually contacted one of the local vendors of being able to do that. And at the time they didn't have an SUV large enough to be able to do that in stock, and we probably wouldn't have it for a couple of days. So this is an opportunity, being able to have a vehicle that we could brand if we needed to be able to use as we needed to. Once again, there is no idea of being able to take it to do anything with it other than leave it at City Hall and use it for the specific purpose when needed. So I think it's just it's a good opportunity, being able to have that type of vehicle as an asset for our sales efforts.
If I could interject, in my previous employer, we had sanitation workers that we would get from temp agencies that we contracted with, and they weren't actual city employees, and they were able to drive the garbage truck. So, and we had the same insurance as what we have here.
So if somebody could just look into that, just so that, we have some idea of, because there may be some additional costs, just to make sure that, we have liability coverage, or just coverage in general.
Councilwoman Cobble, is your professional your professional specialty, do you think it'd be possible for you and I to continue this conversation and look at the best alternatives to being able to get this vehicle and have it and kind of hash out insurance and other aspects of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I want to think through fuel as well.
Okay.
So yeah.
And let me say that I know this has been a unique year, but in terms of the record of how often this has been utilized, that you had to use your personal vehicle to entertain clients, so to speak, and what has that reimbursement cost been? And that would, I think, drive the justification for purchasing a vehicle or entering into a long-term lease of a vehicle. So I think the numbers would speak to that in terms of when you've had to be reimbursed and how much that has averaged for the course of a 12-month period. Just thinking that there are alternatives.
Yep. And Clarence, I'm assuming that is 10 grand is for the annual cost, but because you have a Suburban in here, so that's what a Tahoe is about 45 usually. So if that's a 4-year lease, you're thinking a Suburban is about 40 grand, 40, 50 grand.
I believe so.
Okay. Yep. Let's dig into that a little bit more, see if we can find some ground there. That's all I had for, not that that's not enough, Clarence, but that's all I have for economic development.
Well, again, thank you for your questions, and thank you for your offer to help out with that. It's greatly appreciated.
No problem. Plez, we might need you for this one for facilities. Oh, you're back. Okay. And then I promise you that I am gonna stop after this one. And I might have to jump off and then jump back on. I just got a text message that my mom just had a stroke.
Oh no.
Yeah. So I need to find out what the heck's going on. They're in Philadelphia, so I can't get there. So I might jump off and then jump back on. I need to know what is going on.
Yeah, let's do this so you can get to your family.
The okay, facilities 05156. Let's jump down to real estate rents and leases real quick. I've got a question or two about a few above it, but let's jump there real fast. So we've got 260, we're asking for 280. When I looked at the budget from, well, I guess I didn't have to look at it necessarily, but we budgeted 260 for Ashley Capital alone. In the budget book, this contemplates Sears, Sam's, and Ashley Capital, but without having the exact numbers from the bonds and all that in front of me, I know that we were talking about the cost for Sam's and Sears together was the same monthly cost as what we were paying Ashley Capital. So I just assumed that to be that we're around 21,000 a month for Ashley Capital, and then we would be similarly 20-some thousand a month for Sam's and Sears. So would this number not need to be higher, more like 520-ish? Like you would take 260, multiply it by 2? And if not, where is the cost for the mortgage for Sears and Sam's, if not in this line?
I believe those, it's either in the DDA or the URA, because that's who actually owns those properties.
Okay, so URA, not the DDA.
Yeah, so if you look at the URA budget, there should be money there. Yeah, so there's $357,000. Well, hold on.
Where
Let me make
is
sure here.
URA budget?
It's actually all the way. It's the
Is that what you're calling
last.
building?
No, so it's actually the last page, I believe. Hold on, this report's kind of funky the way it's broken up.
It is the last page. It's the last page of the budget workbook, not the budget book, not the one with the justification, but the one that was posted.
Yeah, so if you scroll all the way down to the last page, there's 200,000 budgeted for principal and 157.6 budgeted for interest for the note payments.
That's development authority, that's housing authority, that's municipal court. I guess
It's kind of funky because the URA, the heading is at the bottom of the previous page. I think there's a updated version of this budget that's better. That's why some of those things you were talking about earlier have actually already been fixed.
Can you, this is Mayor.
Uh-huh.
Can you hear me? All due respect, Councilwoman Cobble, all differences aside, I need you to leave this call right now. This can wait. This stuff, this will be here when you get back. Go. I'm just person to person that we've covered 3 hours worth of stuff, great stuff, and we can cover another 3. But once Travis finishes this piece with you, please leave the call and go handle that situation and come back. All right.
Second.
Will do. Well, and actually, so I can't quickly put my finger on it. So let me step out now and make that call, and then that way I can spend a little bit more time.
But just to explain real quickly for Travis, because it's under the URA, these expenses are going to be under debt service. They're not going to show as rent or facilities expenditures. They're debt service to the bonds issued by the URA.
And isn't our debt service about 250? 350?
I took that directly from the schedules on the paperwork that I had for next year. It said 357,000 in total.
Okay. That's around about the number I was thinking. Okay, I'll look at it a little more closely. Let me make a call because I can't pull it up on this spreadsheet. So all right, I'll step away and I'll come back. Appreciate it.
Yeah, prayers to your family.
Thank you.
Yes,
I'll let you.
Exactly.
I'll let you know what I get. It's tough to be so far though.
Well, we're praying for you.
Appreciate it.
And for your mom, especially.
Go Jazz.
Thank you. See you.
Okay, Councilman Clanton, appears as though you have as equal amount of time. Or were you just messing around with us?
Well, sort of, kind of. No, actually, I was messing around with you guys. I really, wait, did I see Megan almost fall over in her chair? Like, no, seriously, I'm good. I mean, I was following along with Councilwoman Cobble. The few additional questions I have are just really minute, and I'm good. I'm good. Thank you, guys.
No, it's all important. It's all important. So we can go, we can go around the horn, or we can keep going where we were. Council, just jump in. Whoever wants to be next, whoever wants to say, this is what this is for. We're hearing all recommendations.
And for the council, if you come up with some more questions after tonight, please feel free to send them to me or Travis or Gia, and we will be more than happy to get you guys the answers.
Okay. Kind of like Councilman Clanton, I had a lot of just explain because I hadn't seen some of it before. I just put a note, say, oh, what is this? And I was just looking for someone to go through each line item and say, this is why this is here, and we move on. And I didn't have a whole lot of heartache about a lot of the stuff that hasn't been covered yet. But unless I'm jumping ahead of someone, I'm in the area of facilities. Nope, I'm not with you yet. Hold on. Different page in the budget. I will come back if someone else wants to go ahead while I find the right page.
Okay, so I'll stay right here if I can get some clarity. It says that the Ashley Capital contract increased, and let me just say this. I am very tactile kinesthetic, so having the budget book works for me, but having the budget book without the explanation troubles me. I think it's a great thing to have. It's good support, but when it doesn't give a full explanation, then I feel like I'm going to have to ask you to kind of do the budget book on the Zoom call. So I'll start there. And I am under tab 11, and I'm on the very first page, which is the facilities and building 05156. So help me understand, the Ashley Capital contract increased, and then there's a semicolon, and then it says Sam, Sears, and Strayer. Now I just heard you, Joel, say that the actual indebtedness for these buildings, the Sam and the Sears, will hit the development authority. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, the redevelopment authority, yes. Agency, the redevelopment agency, the bonds
No, not development authority, the URA.
URA.
URA, okay.
The Urban Redevelopment Agency, yes.
Right, okay.
URA issued the bonds, and the debt service on the URA covers the purchase. It's like a mortgage. Okay. So that covers the purchase.
Okay, so when I'm looking in this book, because I don't have the actual spreadsheet, and I know, Gia, you say the spreadsheet is in the front, but some of that is, I guess it runs from page to page, so I couldn't find URA. So our budget for this particular page was 260,000 in 20. Is that correct? And we're asking for 21 for it to be 280. Is that correct?
That is what we have in there. The rationale behind that was simply due because at the time that we did this, Travis and I were really new to the organization and was kind of scrambling to get everything looking historically and seeing what the payments were. So we weren't sure what all was included in that, but also the electric bill and some additional space that we rented. Stonecrest Center is also included in that. So that number probably could be adjusted some, but we just wanted to make sure we had enough to cover anything that occurred. And I think even since I've been here, we had another smaller bill that some work that they did specifically to our suite. So we just wanted to make sure that if we needed to make any other adjustments on the inside, that we also were able to do that.
What kind of increase did we have on the Ashley Capital contract?
At this point, I have not seen a new contract, and I would have to kind of defer to Ples. I'm not sure how. I haven't seen if there is a new contract for 21. I have not seen.
So Councilmember Grimes, to kind of answer your question and just for clarification, the Ashley Capital is for the building that we're currently in. The items in the URA that Joel was talking about are the buildings that we've purchased, but aren't using for city staff yet. Right. And so Ashley Capital generally has an increase year to year. We don't know what that's going to be. So that's why we increased the amount that we budgeted.
Okay, so I guess I was really wondering then, why did we have the Sams and Sears here if this only pertained to Ashley Capital? That was just a question, not a big
Okay, I think I can simply answer that. That was probably just for clarification when we got to facilities and buildings, making sure that we internally understood what all of those were. If it could have been a place, and may have been easier to read had we put it underneath facilities and building, the general discussion, the general bullet up there at the top instead of down under one of the lines, because those are the facilities that are included here in the facilities budget, if you will.
Within this area. Okay, okay,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
Yes. So,
I'm-
so the rent that's there is specific to Ashley Capital, but the
Exactly.
other items in that budget covers all the facilities.
Okay, so then when we go to the next one, which is the 53-102 that talks about the pest control, this is what we're doing now clearly for everything that is Stonecrest, Sam, Sears, and Ashley Capital. Or do we have to pay for that since we're renting from Ashley Capital? Do we pay pest control separately to them, or is that included in our rental fee?
Yeah, so actually they do pest control around the perimeter of the building, and we have to pay for the pest control inside the building.
Okay, all right. Okay, so the increase then here from 1,500 to 5,000 then takes an account that we're going to do the same kind of thing at the two buildings where we're currently not.
Right, so we understand that the Sam's Club, we will have to do the external and the internal.
Okay.
Then at the Sears building, probably the perimeter and the internal portion there as well.
Okay, all right, I'll keep going. Water sewer, what's the 500 for? Just for Ashley Capital, we pay all of that separate? I thought we would have paid everything with the 27.
Yes, so the water sewer would be at the new facility.
Just to have water on at Sam's?
Yes, yeah. No, yeah.
Okay. Because it's only $500. I'm just clearly trying to get.
Yeah, we're just to turn it on and just keep it going, and we don't anticipate having that much.
Okay, so then that's the gas. I see that. Electricity. Now, this is still Ashley Capital for the electricity. That's at that's the 23 one that ends in 23. This why the increase from 30,000 to 160,000? And most of my questions.
It's not Ashley Capital.
This one is actually, the building is the new city hall.
So this is the Sam's building only?
So the only line item in this whole department that pertains only to Ashley Capital is the rent line item, because that's the only line item that we have to pay to Ashley strictly to Ashley Capital.
Okay.
Everything else in this department covers all of the facilities, not just one individual facility.
But if you look at, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Graham, in conjunction with what you're saying, the electricity from $30,000 in 2020 was probably just mostly Ashley Capital, that Strayer building. So now we're anticipating that there'll be an extra $130,000 added to cover the other two buildings.
So when we turn the electricity on at the Sam's Club building or the new city hall, the first electric bill that we received was somewhere in the neighborhood of $10,000, I believe, Gia.
That is correct.
And so, if you project that out over 12 months, that's $120,000.
That's just for the one that our future city hall. And
correct.
It does not account for the Sears property.
Right. So what was occurring is all the lights are on, the AC is running, and all those good things. So we've gone in, put in controls in there, but we just wanted to make sure that we're able to cover those expenses.
Okay.
Now, I'm just concerned that there's enough.
Go ahead, George.
Okay. I'm sure we'll get more information on it. Just to put a note that there's concern that this might not be enough.
If you just kind of, with the new properties that we have, with them being just that, being new, we really tried to give a good estimate, but you're right, we could be a little low, and especially if we start utilizing the facilities more. And then even when we start getting in there and determining how we're going to utilize the space, some of these costs may fluctuate, and that may happen for another year or two. So it may be, 60 now, and then next year, because we have extra things, it may be 240. So it's just a good estimate of what we have, but you know, as we go through the year, we of course will be monitoring this account very closely.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Graham, I thank you for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. You can share it all the time. This is why I was very concerned.
Just one additional note about the electricity. The thing is, we didn't have any of the controls for any of the fixtures and those type of things. So when we had the power turned on, all the lights were on, all the AC was running, and all that other stuff was up and running. So we've now, as we prepared the build for the early voting site, we had all of our electrical systems. We had put new controls, new breakers. And so now we can control the lights, we can control the AC, control the thermostats, control the security systems, and all those type of things are now under our control. So now we can turn them on and turn them off, those kind of things where we didn't have that control when we first turned the electricity on. So that's why I'm thinking the power bills should be coming down substantially, and we can now be able to we can now control that a lot better.
Okay, and your best estimates are going to change once you get in the real world. I understand.
Yeah, and that's why I say I'll just save that comment to a later date about that electricity that I was so concerned about. Okay, so those look like supplies. I mean, if anybody wants to jump in, I'm just going through the book. That's what I'm doing. I'm going through the book. So again, we go from 20 to 120 for fencing and security camera installation. I am all for that. Okay. Desks and cubes, 10,000. Other equipment. Okay, well, I'm out of that one. I'm in 12.
But you said from 20 to 124?
No, it went from 20, let me see.
To 120.
It went from 20 to 120. Okay. That's the building and the fencing and security camera installation. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, some of those actually may be done this year, as a matter of fact. So probably when we started on this, we may not even knew that we were going to be doing the early voting in there. So so we had to accelerate some of the things that we're planning to do for next year.
Okay. Well, we've been getting a lot of positive feedback about the SAMS building for the early voting piece. So that's a good thing. Okay.
And Councilwoman Grimes,
I can't hear you. I can't hear you playing sound like you're making a movie.
Oh, we're going to start. Okay, we're going to be calling this the new City Hall. City Hall.
You want me to stop saying Sam's?
I would love it if you stop calling it Sam's.
I'll do my best. I promise. Okay, so all right. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. In section 12, I am now at 52121. And it just simply says the 5% increase that I think you talked about, players.
121. What department is this?
This is communications.
Okay.
So you finished facilities.
Oh, through facilities. I went on to tab 12. Which I'm sorry. I don't have.
Before you leave facilities, I had a question about there's desk, cubicles, and chairs and conference room furniture. Now, is this just considering the current City Hall, or are we considering other facilities with this furniture?
54230. That's the account number.
Yeah, that I believe we just just had that number there at $10,000 just as an allocation there, pretty much as a placeholder. As if we need any new furniture or desks or chairs and that type of thing as we go along. So
yeah, I know we talked about this being for all three properties, so I just wanted to know if this was earmarked for a single property or this is for all three properties.
Right. When we were looking at this, we really didn't consider, because that the furniture and fixtures, as we build those properties out, that'll be under another budget.
Okay. All right, not a biggie.
All right.
Okay, all right, so we'll keep it moving. Anybody else? Councilman Clancy, you need anything while we're here?
Going once, going twice.
I'm good. Thank you very much.
Councilman Turner, Rob Turner, you good?
I'm fine, my dear. Thank you for asking. Appreciate you.
All right, I'm gonna keep moving then.
I'm right with you on the 5%.
Okay, that's my concern. I just,
So once again, just the 5%. Once again, just a placeholder. We're still working on developing the final numbers for the Jacobs contract, and so I'll be working with Wayne, and we'll try to get this to you guys at our upcoming meeting. Okay.
okay, I'm writing.
Okay.
All right, on to the next. Councilman George Turner, you good?
Oh, yes.
All right, so 00. What is this one? It says communications, but it gives me no description, and it says 00. It's the 52-135. I don't know what that is because I'm not on that.
Okay, so that's software and contracts.
Okay, so Adrian doesn't need anything?
Is it a 0?
00 in my book.
Yeah, if he didn't speak up, he didn't get any.
I'm okay as far as software is concerned. The contracts that I have are under, some of them are covered under professional services.
Okay.
Such as a website contract.
We'll keep moving. Printing, $500. Okay, is this for my picture, Adrian?
If you'd like for us to spend $500 on it, sure.
Well, it's
No.
been so long, it might cost you more. Yes, sir. Make
No,
sure
that's generally business card printing, things like, and I'm gonna get that. I've got to find the frame. You know what? I've got to print that picture out, and we're having a problem with the photo printer.
You know, I was just joking, right?
I know, but I figured I would go on and answer. But
all right, so the items that go to council, this is like business. I mean, that goes to the city, business cards and those kinds of identifiers. That's what you say.
For example, our census flyers were printed out of that budget last year.
Okay.
Or this year, I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay. Education and training increased $800. Was 1,000. Now what I have is 1,000 to 1,800. That's, I guess that's reasonable. It's not a big amount to me. It's, I don't know why the increase came.
It actually was 1,500.
Oh, so the budget for 20 was 1,500?
Well, you know what? That was actually, there was no increase.
Well, it says education and training 1,000, and then in the box for the 20 budget it says 1,000, but then in the box for the 21 it says 1,800. So if this is another mismatch, just tell me what to write in here because everything red is good.
That might be a mismatch on what I'm looking at. It was 1,800 this year and it's 1,800 next year.
Okay, so I'll change that. Okay. All right. Operating supplies, they stayed the same. Small equipment, $5,000. What's that, like cameras and all that kind of stuff, Adrian? What is
Yes.
that?
What I've been doing is just kind of building up. Well, first off, cameras break and go bad on you. So sometimes you have to replace them. Okay. And so that covers that. It also covers, as we go forward, instead of putting a ton of money up front in the budget. When Michael Harris and I first talked about this a few years ago, we decided to allocate money every year so that we could grow the equipment and still be proficient in using it, as opposed to going out the first year and saying, okay, now we've got $30,000 worth of equipment, we've got 6 cameras, we've got all this lighting stuff, and we haven't had time to really learn the systems. And because of technology, it takes, it's better to do it that way anyway, because what we buy, what we bought in 2018 will be outdated in 2021.
With the technology change.
Right.
Okay. Other equipment.
That was kind of spread out. That was kind of cut off or separated rather by Mr. Harris a few years ago, and I just kept it that way. Some of it is, so the 5,000 was your larger camera equipment. The smaller equipment could be camera equipment, but it could also be things like if I need computer accessories or something that Interdev does not provide, jump drives, other small equipment that would just basically supplement the major equipment purchases.
It really, to be honest, it's probably budgeted backwards. To be completely honest with you, small equipment are items that wouldn't be capitalized, and other equipment is a 54 account, so it's going to be items that would be capitalized.
Oh, okay.
Is what you would see. So that's kind of the distinction there between those two accounts.
Okay, so the 53 should be the jump drives and the 54 should be the cameras.
Correct.
All right, I'm good. All right, so I'm gonna write a big backwards here. Okay, that brings me to the end of 12. Now the next one is IT and GIS. Now, I did have some a question about this one. I guess I was thinking for the 52-120 with and by the way, Corey is wonderful. He's awesome. I miss Bree, but Corey is great. Why was was anything spent in 20 out of this budget? Because remember, I just have the book, so it doesn't tell me what was spent. So that would be 52-120. Was anything spent out of this $10,000 budget?
That was just professional services. We probably didn't bring on any consultants or contractors or anything in that area. Especially this year, we probably wouldn't in anything out of the norm. We wouldn't have had any expenses there.
Okay, and see, I was thinking that it would have been major because you would have needed to help people at their homes with our virtual conducting of business. So that was just a personal question that I had. Okay, all right.
No, that's just included in there, and so that's part of their day job.
Okay. All right. So,
Excuse me. I'm sorry, Council. I apologize. And I'll let you also continue, Councilwoman Grimes. Just wanted to pause a second. Are we going to go line item by line item all the way through to, to 24? Can we? Do you guys have absolutely jumps out big number of stuff that you want to kind of handle first? Because if we're just doing explanations, and this is for everybody, this is not singling you out, guys, but if we're just doing explanations, we can easily do that offline with staff. But there's an item that size and an area of specific concern. Can I respectfully ask that we do that? So I'll get off the line.
Yeah, that's usually my understanding, that look for the item that has changed drastically, either up or down, and address those, assuming that the ones that had no change were okay last year, they should be okay this year. It's just my basic assumption. But I do agree. I would be looking at the ones that changed drastically up or changed drastically down and get some understanding.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll
Yeah.
stay right here on this page then. We're at 52121, contractual services for Jacobs. The 367,500 for, it didn't change at all. So is this one not part of the 5% increase?
Yeah, so our IT and GIS folks are contracted through, are actually through Interdev, another company. So they are not they're not Jacobs employees.
Okay, all right. I'll keep it moving. Now, anybody here could be driving this boat besides me.
Well, actually, you know, we probably need to get to the capital improvement discussion.
Okay, all right, let's go there. Let's see.
But again, you know, if you have questions, if you could email those in, we'll be happy to answer those for you.
Well, here's a big one. If you can go to the general operations, the uniforms and the city branding that went from 0 to 20,000. If you can just give me an explanation on that, I'll move right along.
So that was the one we talked about earlier when Councilmember Cobble brought that up in the city council budget. We talked about how we had increased that line item to move basically all the uniform purchases there, or all the, you know, city shirts or branded gear there, you know, unless there was something specific for council to wear to GMA.
Okay.
Right. So each department used to have their own uniform line, and so we just consolidated it all under general.
Okay. All right. Well, let's keep moving. Turner and Clanton, if you see something big that you want to jump to, go ahead. But I'm on the bank fees, merchant fees, and stop payments went from 2,000 to 50,000.
I had one note. Maybe I'm ahead of you, but on the general operation,
right?
I'm in general operations 52,361, and it's the bank fees. It says merchant fees and stop payments. It went from 2,000 to 50,000.
Before you get there, 52,232. Computer copiers and lease.
So to answer your question, both of those line items were increased to coincide with the actual usage for this year. You know, I'm not sure why they were budgeted so low in the past, but both of those items, that's what we're actually paying. You know, particularly with the bank fees and merchant fees, with everyone having to pay online now, basically, you know, there's a cost for that. And it's quite significant.
Okay. It's COVID. All right.
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The general liability insurance. The premium, I'm reading this, is $25,000. That's 52310.
Correct. Yeah, that line item has not changed.
I'm just curious as to how much liability does that buy us?
Without having the policy in front of me.
That's not significant to what we're doing right now. I'm just curious, so I can get that later. Okay.
All right, there's one more in
here. We've paid $23,000, so we're right close there.
Okay.
All right, not business card. I see that stuff went down on the business card. We said COVID for that. There's another one in here. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, this one. The internet and phones jumped from 33,000 to 100,000.
So we purchased cell phones for all the city employees, and you know that comes with a monthly bill. And in addition, well, I don't think it's there. I think that one's under parts, but you know, that's what that increase is for.
Okay. All right.
And also for the record, while you guys are looking around and about, I'm good with the rest of the budget. There's nothing really glaring in my opinion. from here to the end of the budget, but I am very interested in the CIP, and hopefully we can have that conversation.
Yeah. So maybe if we can time box the rest of this conversation for the next 5 to 10 minutes to knock out the remainder. The rest of the budget is pretty static. We really there may be some things with the administration that may have changed a little bit that we may want to address.
Except for that one item that Councilwoman Grimes mentioned, and that is the bank fee went from $2,000 to $50,000. That was 52361.
That was one of the items where I was talking about the merchant fees and you know, people paying online because you know, we get charged for all those transactions.
Got it.
Okay, I'm in the parks and I do have a question from 12,000 to 217,000. I see some of the fees and that's the 51,300. It talks about the technical services,
Right.
all of the contracted services. So these are their contracted fees for the year for this. Is that correct, Mr. Riley?
Councilwoman, good evening. So pretty much as it pertains to technical services this past year, we spent a lot of money on plumbing. You know, DeKalb County has doesn't do really well with the plumbing, the pipes. So we've spent a lot of money with plumbers trying to get the pipes fixed. We had a lot of down trees, fallen trees, dead trees throughout our park system. So we figured the best way to utilize the services is, instead of just calling the plumber or scoping out a plumber or bidding out a plumber, just go ahead and just do a full blanket bid so that we can have a service on hand whenever we need it. If we have any plumbing issues or electrician issues or tree service issues, given that we had this issue in the past.
Okay. So this is what we needed then. Okay.
Mr. Parks Director.
Yes, sir.
I will just have the personal discussion with you when I talk to you on tomorrow. There are a lot of things here. I just simply wanted some explanation. I'm not challenging any of the numbers, so I won't hold us up on that. But I will just have that conversation with you when I talk to you on tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Just understanding as to what's going on.
Mr. Riley, I'm scheduled to meet with you this week too, so we'll talk.
Okay.
Y'all don't have to tell me, but once that I'm talking too much and taking too much time, you don't have to say it like that. You got your camera on, in the back, folks rocking, turning stuff. It's okay. It's all right.
Well, this only happens once a year. We got to get it right.
No one would ever make that assertion.
No, of course you would.
Make sure you get an understanding, Councilwoman Grimes, on what you need.
You know, in all things, I'm gonna get an understanding. Call me questions. Call me questions. All right. Call me questions. It's all right. I'm gonna keep on, Brandon. I'll save my stuff for you whenever I talk to you tomorrow or Saturday. Community development, not a lot of stuff in here that I need to, and I think business development. I've run out of my tabs, so I had all of this stuff with tabs on it, and so it's gone. My tabs are gone. These are small amounts that are not changing. Cultural affairs, not changing. So why does code enforcement have their uniforms in 52-120, Travis, Mr. Travis, Mr.
Well, code enforcement actually wears uniforms every day. So that's a little different situation than just buying, you know, random shirts and things, but they're wearing uniforms every day.
Okay, so if we had police and fire, their stuff would be in here like this?
Correct.
So code enforcement and building department, they both have uniform allocations because both of those departments, as you know, those folks are going out every day in uniform. So they have specific.
No, please. I was only trying to be clear when.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Definitely. I agree with you.
Okay. All right, I'm through with code enforcement. Then they're gonna get some stuff.
Yeah, you're gonna see, because you'll see the uniform line item under building as well.
Okay, so it's one thing that's catching my eye that I need some clarity on. I see with the 5%. It's in tab 21, and that's other financing uses. I kind of skipped over the last piece here. I don't think it's got too many things that I need to go over. Okay, so it's called other financing uses. That's the department, and it's the 57,200.
Right.
Yes.
Payments to other agencies. So when
Okay. Yeah, so we can read quickly. So the 357,600, that goes to the URA, to the Urban Redevelopment Agency, for the payment on the bond for years and the new city hall.
what is CVB? Stonecrest CVB.
Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Oh, okay. Okay. So Housing Authority. Okay. So who all is included in this 357? Just these three, or do we have to?
So the 357 is only to the URA to cover the note on the new city hall and the Sears building. That's what the 357 is for. The 497 is where we talked about earlier, the transfer of the LMIG money to the SPLOS fund. And
Okay,
then
because in the book for the 20 budget, it's empty. What was that number? Can you give me that number, please?
Which number is this?
This is the number for 61,103 for the LMIG.
Yeah, that was 497,500.
Is that I have that in the 21 request. What was 20?
Oh, see, we didn't do it. It wasn't set up this way last year.
Okay, because it was separate.
Right. So these are some of the enhancements that Travis and Gia brought to us, where they were actually, their stuff is now being done properly.
Okay, I'm writing enhancement on here. Okay. All right. Municipal court, I don't need that. Public works. Okay, so the ones that don't necessarily have the 20 budget pretty much mean that they're new, and those are the updates that Travis and Gia have done.
Correct. They set up new funds and everything for each of them. So we'll have all these numbers will now be broken out so that we can quickly, so we can see what's going on with the housing authority, what's going on with the development authority, what's going on with SPLOS, and everything is all separated out for us. So.
Okay. All right, well, I'm almost through. Municipal court. Don't need nothing there, I think. Got judges, got folks coming in. And I'm on the last one, number 24. Business development. Looks like Travis and Gia have done new things in the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Advertising Best of Stonecrest campaign. Okay, 12. Okay, it is now 9:37. I think I can live without asking questions here. And if I go through any slower, or if I review, I will definitely ask questions of you. And Ples, you said you sent the questions to us as well, right?
Yes, in that packet that was sent out about 3:30 today.
Okay. I can't get it to open.
Okay. And what I'll do is after we get off the phone here, I'll send. It was actually 5 separate documents, and Megan concatenated them into one. I'll send you all 5 separate documents, and then you can see each one separately. So one is the agenda, one is the questions and the answers, and then one is what we're going to get to right now. If all hearts and minds are ready, let
me just say that. Well, I had tabs and notes, and we've gone through all of my notes. So I just have tabs, which means that my questions have been pretty much covered. It's just that there's one on business development, 52120. There was a suggestion for a Sun Enterprises. And I think we made note that we were not going to address them, although you say this was just for council's consumption, that we would not address them by the business name and just put in there the service itself? Or what is the Sun Enterprises?
Councilman Turner, Sun Enterprises. I apologize, but they should actually be under tourism, under CVB. They are I apologize that I don't have that line item in front of me right now, but they are a specialty firm that has worked with hotels and convention and visitors bureaus around the region, and they are available to offer us assistance with sales and marketing for the Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Okay. All right. Just one editorial comment before I yield, and that is that this is the type of conversation we need year long. So when it comes down to understanding the budget, we don't have to struggle for hours and hours in one night. So I'm going to try to commit to have these conversations with each department as the year goes on.
I look forward to it, sir.
Thank you.
Actually, Councilman Turner, George Turner.
Yes.
Actually, you are going right into what we wanted to talk about concerning the capital improvement program. So in the packet that we also sent out, we sent you the comprehensive plan along with all of the projects that are included in there. The transportation master plan with the short-term and mid-term projects included there, and as well as the parks master plan with all of their projects. And we just sent just a list of the projects. So what we're going to be doing is tonight, I just wanted to get this in front of you guys and let you know what our approach is going to be. Since we've gotten so much good community feedback in developing those three plans, what we want to do is we want to work with the council and our internal finance folks to put together a 5-year capital improvement plan for the city. And so what we're going to do is we're going to incorporate what we pulled out of the comprehensive plan, what's in the transportation master plan. So how are we going to do our roads every year? What are we going to spend on our roads? How much are we going to spend on sidewalks and trails? How much are we going to spend in our parks? How much are we going to spend on upgrading the facilities and preparing new city hall for us to move in there as well? And then the real crucial part of this is prioritizing all of these projects, getting them into a nice spreadsheet. We're probably going to be looking at a software package that will assist us in doing this. And then what we're going to be doing starting in January, we're going to build this plan with the council. So remember, we're going to change the way we're doing our meetings starting next year. Remember, we'll have a working session, one meeting, and then the next meeting is going to be the council meeting, right? The working session meeting, we're going to set aside some time for us to work on this capital improvement plan. So every meeting, we're going to spend 15, 20 minutes, talk about prioritizing the projects, making sure that we're comfortable with that. And probably within about 3 to 4 months, may not even take that long, we should then have our plan ready to go. We can then publish the plan. It'll be our 5-year plan. And now we can then update our SPLOS. Remember our SPLOS budget that we put together. We can adjust that and put the numbers where we need to put them using the transportation master plan, parks master plan, and our comprehensive plan to make sure that we're using those as our framework and our guide going forward. And then this is the way we're going to build this plan out for the next 5 years. And this is now, to your point, Councilman, on a monthly basis, then we'll just be giving reports out. These are the projects that we're working on. This is the money that we're going to be getting to pay for these projects. These are the stuff that's on track. These are the things that may need a little bit more attention. These may be the projects that we plan to do this year, but we didn't collect enough money to do them. All those type of things are things that we can now have a monthly conversation with the council and make sure that everybody's on the same page with how we're doing and how we're addressing our capital improvements within the city. Now, if you keep in mind, this is going to be the first year where we have a transportation master plan. First year we have a parks plan, and this is going to be our first opportunity to really start looking at our SPLOS dollars and all the other funds and grants and things that are coming in, and how that's going to fit into the ultimate plan of how we're going to handle all of our capital improvements and investments for the city going forward. Okay.
Ples, can I say one thing, please?
Oh yes, please. This is what I want. I want some feedback and
thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. But I wanted to be just crystal clear to specifically the constituents in District 5. I know we all are Stonecrest, but you elected me to represent you. I want to be crystal clear. The time that I took tonight, I hope you weren't offended, because I want you to know what's going on. And if I don't know what's going on, I can't tell you. So I really, yeah, it was a, kind of in gist, but I just want you to know that I want you to know what's going on. And so if I have to be the outlier and take a little more time than anybody else, I'm okay with it. I just want you to be okay.
No.
Not because I was offended. I just want to be clear to my constituents while I have their attention. So that's all I want.
Oh, all righty. Awesome. Everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy.
I mean, the thing that you just went through, I mean, you said Megan sent it to us, and I haven't had a chance to look at it. So is there more discussion on it?
No. Actually, what I wanted to do is I wanted to float the idea. Does it sound crazy? Or is this something that's plausible, something that's doable? What we want to do is we want to make sure that we're doing this in a way that we get some feedback, have a dialogue about things, and then also put together a plan that we can all live with. I know that in the past, that's been something that we've sort of been struggling with, because, for the past 2 years, I've been coming to you with, the road paving project. And it's like, well, where does that, the $6 million or $4 or $5 million, where does that fit into our long-term plan? And how is that going to get us to where we're trying to get to? Well, we've never really had, this is our first opportunity to actually plan everything out. And then we can actually see a roadmap for the future for the city, not just for paving the roads, but I heard, you'd have to be, deaf not to hear that folks want sidewalks. We want trails, we want connectivity in our area as well. So how does that all fit in? How do we fit those all into what we need to have done? I know a lot of folks say, we want some sidewalks. Well, you just can't pour concrete and put out sidewalks. You got to do engineering design. You have to do studies and all those kinds of. So we need to plan those kind of things. So that's what this is.
Yeah, and Mr. Jordan, I do. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yes,
Mr. Jordan, I agree, and I think that capital improvement is one of the areas where people get to see exactly what our city is doing and what we are about. This is us putting our money where our mouth has been in regards to all the plans that we have, put forth, including the master transportation plan and the comprehensive plan and the parks and rec plan. And so now we're saying, let's get together and attach some funds to these various projects and plans so that the people can see what we're talking about, and that we as a group, as a council, as members of council, basically on a monthly basis, can now actually participate in the process of bringing some of these capital projects into fruition. And I think another important part of it is that we are able to now actually project out a timetable for some of these things to happen. So it won't be some pie in the sky, by and by project that we hope happened at some point in time. So, I've heard from constituents who say, well, you guys never have a plan for anything that in the comprehensive plan. You got all this stuff in the comprehensive plan, when it's going to happen, when you're going to commit to, what are you going to commit to? And now I think this is part of that opportunity. So that's why I really wanted to hear a lot more about the CIP, the comprehensive, the capital improvement plan, and how we as city council members fit in, and what is our anticipated role, and and also to learn about the rollout of these projects and how do we prioritize. But what I'm hearing now is that the priority it lies within us, the council.
And actually, okay. and you that is really the number one point And because we talked about this, I see Gia shaking her head, and Travis. I'm merely the mouthpiece for this. Gia and Travis, they pounded this into me the last couple of days as we were discussing this. And we looked through those plans. We looked through the transportation master plan. We looked through the parks master plan. Looked at the comprehensive plan. On some of the plans, there's some money. So the transportation master plan has how much these projects are going to cost. The parks master plan has, a very high level what they are, as well as the comprehensive plan, but nobody has prioritized and put out a timeline for when these things are going to be done. So that's the missing part of our roadmap is which one are we going to do first? Which one are we going to do second? Which one is, is 2 years down the road? Which one is 3 years down the road, and those type of things. And then how much are we going to spend this year, and then how we're going to end up. So all of those are all part and parcel to that plan. So thanks a lot, Councilman Clanton. You're really spot on. And this will go a long way for us communicating to the community exactly where we're going and what we're up to.
All right, Mr. Joyner, did you have anything else?
No, that will do it. Like I said, when I get off this call, I will send everybody the individual files so that they can start looking at those. And then as we go into the new year, we'll start to plan out, how these work sessions on our capital improvement plan will look during our work sessions.
All right. So with this, we heard a lot of information. We went over a tremendous amount of recommendations. So it doesn't stop here. What I would department heads that you have, and get clarity on any questions that you have. I will be taking into account all the recommendations I've heard, and also, of course, your feedback. And we'll pull all of this together between myself, Ms. Gia, Mr. Travis, Ms. Janice, Mr. Plez, and get all this nice and bundled up so that the next official time we meet, all minds and hearts will be clear. Do I have any further comments or questions from council?
May I just say one more thing, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I've been remiss, and if I didn't recognize Ms. Janice Jackson for her contribution in helping us pull this all together. She has a wealth of knowledge that we've been able to leverage over the last week or so. And like I said, I'd just be remiss if I just didn't say thank you so much, Janice, for helping us out. Okay.
Excellent. And Ms. Jackson, if I didn't call your name up top, I hope I did at the bottom. And Mr. Joyner is 100% correct. I thought you were going to get tired of me there for a minute, and I'm glad. I'm a special kind of sauce. Y'all know that. So if council, I'll take last comments from anybody. And if not,
Ms. Cobble made it back.
Yeah.
I don't see it on the line.
yeah. If those of you that are close to her, if you could send out a note to all of us what's happening, I personally appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. With that, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. This has been some good work.
Good work, everybody.
Awesome meeting, everybody. Thank you.